News Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good morning to you. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 28th of March. Today, lawless Britain. A search is underway after a man armed with a zombie blade attacked a passenger on a train in broad daylight.
The King records a Maundy Thursday message highlighting the importance of extending the hand of friendship, especially in a time of need.
Could a summer election be on the horizon? There's new speculation as Downing Street aides fear the Prime Minister might not be able to hold off until autumn.
The bodies of 2 people are found in the Baltimore bridge search as 4 others are now presumed dead.
And the satisfaction with the NHS hits its lowest level since records began. We'll be asking whether it's time to privatise the health service.
And in the sport this morning, Gareth Southgate may well have a bigger squad at the Euros than expected. A former England captain will retire at the end of the season. And when you're Novak Djokovic and you're not playing well, what do you do? Well, you fire your coach, of course. That's what you do.
Hello there. We've got strong winds, heavy showers across the country through the day today as low pressure pushes its way northwards. Find out all the weather details coming up in the programme soon.
Morning to you, I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Now, here's a question for you at 1 minute past 6.
Yeah.
Are you a Harry Potter fan?
I am a big Harry Potter fan.
Are you?
Yeah, I love Harry Potter.
What do you think of the magic of a cloak of invisibility?
Yeah, I'd love one. I always think if I could have one thing, it would be to be able to be invisible. You know, like a magic power.
Well, you can.
Oh.
You can. And I know this sounds weird. This is in the Star this morning. Look at that picture there. Can you see? There's 2 pictures there. They've actually invented one. And this is no joke. It's not a con. It's a proper... It's not a cloak. It's a sheet of invisibility, and it bends the light waves around you.
Oh, well, that's very technical.
It's expensive.
I bet it is.
If you want the big one, it's about 800 quid.
Oh, that's not too bad. When you said expensive, I thought you meant like £1 million.
But it does actually...
Oh, do you know what?
It does actually make you invisible.
I'd be tempted by that, I think.
Now
well, it's not actually that good, is it?
What? Oh, come on.
It looks like a sheet of glass. It just looks like a mirror or something that you're holding up.
Yeah, but you can't... It's pretty good. I mean, look at that fella in front of the garage there.
Yeah,
pretty good.
yeah.
So it's pretty clever. And I always think stuff like that, when we imitate science fiction or magic or all that sort of thing, we can actually make it work. I think that's quite clever.
And it's British.
It's
inventors,
British. Yes.
Which is very good. Very impressive.
We invented
you know
the
what?
internet.
I'd
now
be one
we've
to buy
invented
that.
invisibility cloaks.
Can I just say how cute is Stephen? That's why we were giggling, because he makes little cutouts and puts them to the side so he knows what to chat
I've got
about.
another one for later.
Very sweet. So I just looked over. I said, "Oh, do we have something to chat about?" He said, "Yep." He just turned his little cutouts.
You see,
very cute.
It's called preparation and professionalism, darling.
I could learn a lot from you, couldn't I?
You could. Right, there's lots to crack on with today. Actually, it's a busy news day. Let's start with a manhunt that's underway after a man armed with a zombie blade attacked somebody else on a train in broad daylight in front of other passengers. Now, if you're watching on TV, a warning that the footage we're about to show is somewhat distressing.
Well, this is a video that is circulating on social media and it appears to show a man wearing a face mask and wielding a large blade. Police stopped the train and paramedics attended the scene, but the suspect got away.
Now, the victim's been taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries, we understand. Let's talk to former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley, who joins us now. I mean, Peter, this would be shocking under any circumstances. The fact that it's on a train in broad daylight is utterly horrific.
Yes, quite a terrifying experience for anybody who's unfortunate enough to be on that train, I'm sure. But, of course, not out of the ordinary for the 999 responders, the paramedics and the police who will have attended this dreadful incident, because this is the kind of thing they witness and see the results of only too often, I'm afraid, in Great Britain in 2024.
And it must have been so distressing for onlookers as well, Peter.
Full credit to the onlookers on the train. When you look at all the footage, you see a man who quite rightfully walks away, walks in the opposite direction, but what's he doing? He's on the phone. Another woman shouts at the offender, trying to get him to stop, because this is a situation that is so horrendous and so dangerous that only the fittest of the fit and the most highly trained in restraint techniques and disarming techniques should ever consider getting involved in. And by that, I basically mean special forces members of the army and the military. So this is not a situation for the public to get involved in. Somebody quite brilliantly filmed it. A number of other passengers quite brilliantly got on the phone and dialed 999. And all credit to those people, showing the very best of the British spirit and public spiritedness.
Yeah, as you say, not something to... It's not have a go hero time with something like this. But Peter, where do the police begin now? They've got the footage. They'll be able to get other CCTV footage, you'd imagine, but this man is sort of fully covered, seems to have a face mask on. How do they even begin a search like this?
If you look very closely at the footage, you'll see that his right hand that the assailant uses to do the repeated stabbing action with does not appear to be wearing a glove. Now, this quite potentially will bring a lot of forensic opportunities into play. There'll also be CCTV on the train, and we heard that apparently these two men got on at Shortlands railway station. For people that are not familiar with that part of suburban London, it's closest to a town called Bromley. So not only will there be possible forensic opportunities as the man without a glove has touched maybe to get in by using a card or a barrier, or even if they've jumped the ticket barrier, they may have put their hand on the barrier to leap over it. So there could be fingerprint and DNA forensic opportunities there, other opportunities for forensics on the train, and also wherever the assailant got off the train. Likewise, will they have put their hand on a barrier to leap over it? Anybody who uses public transport in London will be only too familiar with people leaping barriers and not paying and the such like. So plenty of forensic opportunities here at different locations. There will also perhaps be police intelligence on this person that they already know. And I would properly expect that in perhaps a day or two, we will find out either that this person has been detained or the police will appeal to the public for assistance in finding whoever it is.
And Peter, the blade in this video looks very large. I think for people watching that, I'd be very distressed by it. It looks like a machete or even a zombie knife, which are meant to be banned.
Yes, it's a huge weapon. And we've heard in recent months and weeks, the Home Secretary in particular, saying that new legislation is going to be brought forward to ban the possession of these. That's already banned. But the importation, the possessing of them in your home address and the such like. But much of this legislation takes a long time to actually come into power. But of course, it's blatantly obvious to everybody there are a raft of very serious criminal offences being committed during this incident. And if British Transport Police fully resource this investigation with a homicide team, as they should do, because we've heard the injuries that imposed on this person were life-threatening, then I feel confident that such a properly resourced, experienced team of detectives should be making substantial progress in their investigation.
Well, let's hope so. Peter Blexley, as always, good to see you. Thanks very much indeed.
Now, King Charles is set to speak of kindness and friendship in his Maundy Thursday message later on today.
Yeah, it's going to be broadcast during a service in Worcester Cathedral. This year, the Queen is standing in for the King, who's resting from public duties after his cancer diagnosis and ongoing treatment, of course.
Well, royal historian and columnist Martin Whittock joins us now. Very good to see you this morning, Martin. And what do we understand is in this Maundy Thursday message from the King?
Well, the King is going to be praising those who serve others, who reach out to others. And that's very, very symbolic and very, very significant for Maundy Thursday. Maundy Thursday is the day on which Christians remember the Last Supper and Jesus washing the feet of his disciples and giving them the commandment to love each other as he loved them. In fact, the word Maundy comes from the Latin for this commandment to love others. And in fact, monarchs have been giving gifts to, in the past, poor people since the Middle Ages. In fact, since the time of King John and the early 13th century, they even began to wash the feet of people who were brought to these ceremonies. Queen Elizabeth I stopped washing feet at that point, and the foot washing stopped at the end of during the reign of James II in the 17th century. But the idea was bringing people together, as many people, men and women, as the monarch is old, and giving them a gift, a special gift, which consists of a £5 coin, a £50 coin, but also special Maundy money to the same number as the age of the monarch. 75, of course, is the age of King Charles. Now, if you think that's not a lot of money, 75 pence, these are specially minted silver Maundy coins, 1 penny, 2 penny, 3 penny and 4 penny denominations. So alongside this rather touching message of the King, who is the recipient of much aid and assistance, obviously at the moment, because of his illness, will be the gifts of Maundy money to people, 75 men, 75 women at Worcester Cathedral. Very symbolic, this, because this happens to be the cathedral where King John is buried, and it was King John that started that 300-year-old tradition, which isn't carried out anymore, of actually washing the feet of people as well as giving these gifts.
Yeah, it is a real shame, though, that obviously this message has had to be recorded because the King himself can't be present at the moment. But Her Majesty, the Queen, stepping in, I mean, she's certainly working very hard in the face of the King's illness.
Yes, this shows the importance of Queen Camilla's role. As you quite rightly say, King Charles is not able to actually attend this ceremony in Worcester Cathedral today. These ceremonies tended to happen in London in the past, but the Queen then moved them out into the provinces to various cathedrals. That is the late Queen. And today, because the King cannot make it, his message will be broadcast, of course, of reaching out to others, of loving and service to others, as Christ showed that model of service. But the Queen will be representing him today. And it does remind us at the moment how the royal family is under a lot of pressure at the moment because of the illness of Princess Catherine, because of the illness of the King. This is a very difficult time for the royal family, but other members of the family are stepping into these gaps that are caused because of the illness of these other members of the family, and Queen Camilla is doing that today. And it shows how important her role is alongside the King in the present monarchy.
Martin Whittock, good to see you this morning. Thank you so much for your time.
It would be quite something. If you've ever received Maundy money, it would be fascinating.
It would be.
To say, if you've got any pictures of it, because I said, I mean, it's this year 75 pence, but the fact those specially minted coins, I mean, it'd be worth a lot of money.
It would be.
But the fact you 1, 2, 3 and 4 pence coins, It must be quite something to have. I'm sure you wouldn't sell them unless you were absolutely desperate. But if you've got any pictures of those, it'd be fascinating to see. gbviews@gbnews.com.
Now, the Prime Minister's aides have reportedly urged him to call a summer election following concerns that Tory revolt is brewing.
Now, according to reports, there's a lot of speculation over just how many letters of no confidence in Rishi Sunak have been submitted to Sir Graham Brady, who's chairman of the 1922 Backbench Committee.
Well, political commentator Andy Williams joins us now. Very good morning to you, Andy. So a summer election, if it's called, it would be very rare indeed, wouldn't it?
It would be, and I think it reflects the fact, Rishi Sunak, that there is no good time for him to call an election. You know, there's been speculation for a while about whether it was going to be May, and I know that I think, Stephen, you were pretty keen on the May idea, or at least you thought that it might be May. I think the best strategy for the Prime Minister is name the date now, because the speculation about when this is going to go on and on and on until we have an election date. I'm pretty confident that it's going to be in the autumn, probably in October or in November. But it's possible, if this speculation goes on, that we end up having a general election by accident, because we're going to have some local elections on the 2nd of May, which is coming up very soon. There's now a by-election on that date in Blackpool. And I think those results are going to be really disastrous for the Conservative Party and for Rishi Sunak. So if he's not careful, he might end up being bounced into a summer election by mistake.
I mean, the fact that he's being urged to sort of get on with it by people who think he's just not going to last out till autumn is a pretty grim sign, actually.
It's a really grim sign. And actually, we've seen another 2 resignations by pretty well-respected ministers within the last few days. James Heappey, the Armed Forces Minister, Robert Halfon. These are people who are reasonably well-known, not massively well-known, but reasonably well-known, and well-respected across Westminster. And it's just getting worse with every resignation, with every person who says, I don't actually have the stomach to fight this general election as a Conservative MP. It's getting more difficult for Rishi Sunak, and the feeling is really that defeat's now inevitable, and some people are saying, why don't you go earlier and minimise the damage? There are people within the Conservative Party who are saying, if you wait till October or November, the scale of the defeat is only going to be more severe. Why don't you go now and lose by, say, 100-seat majority rather than 150-seat majority?
But then there's the other school of thought, isn't there, that if defeat is inevitable, why wouldn't you cling on to power for as long as humanly possible?
Yeah, and I think that's probably the more powerful driving force behind Rishi Sunak's decision-making, and that's why I don't think it will be in the summer. I think it will be in October or November, and I think he'll be looking to, get 1 or 2 more policies, more successes in his mind on the books before he calls that election. It's a really, really difficult situation for him to be in. I was speaking to a member of the shadow cabinet the other evening, and he was saying, as I mentioned a minute ago, he thinks there will be a general election by accident, whereby May and the local elections in May are so bad that the scale of revolt in the Conservative Party just forces him to go for a vote early. And actually, if they go suddenly and they go unprepared, it might not be great, but it could be better than October or November. There's also a school of thought that we wait until January, which seems crazy, which is the latest date that a general election could possibly be. But at this stage, who knows?
Yeah, seems a bit desperate, doesn't it, to leave it till January? He could still squeeze in May.
Andy, he's set on May. He really is.
I'm not giving up.
Still,
I'm not giving up just yet, Andy.
Nah.
Can't do the 2nd anymore. That deadline's passed. So if they want to go 7 days after the local election results, then good luck.
Yeah. Well, of course, the interesting thing is, and thank you, Andy. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
The interesting thing is, of course, that election, the local elections, certainly a week ago, that hadn't been set in stone.
I know.
Yet it was still movable. They moved the local. I mean, it'd be chaos if they did, but still possible. So I don't know.
Do you think they'll use it now as a litmus test? They'll do the locals.
Well,
then if it's not looking too bad, maybe they go quickly.
Yes.
Of course you think that, because he still thinks May.
Yeah, well, you would do that. However, it's not going to go well. I mean, local elections like that at this point would never go well.
Never go well, no.
For a sitting government. But I think it's likely to be. The experts think it's going to be disastrous in the local elections. But a summer election, would you like? And traditionally they don't happen. Of course, they're not around in July. Is it? There's 1 month where it actually cannot happen. I don't
August. Must be August.
I don't know if it's June or July. I think for some reason, some political expert will correct me. But June or July, I think they can't happen. But would you have an election in August?
But you'd think spirits would be high in summer. There's something to be said for that. The good weather.
Scupper our summer holidays.
Well, I'm about to say. Well, I'm set for. Well, I'd like to go on holiday in September. So if we could leave it until October, Rishi Sunak, that would be great.
I'm thinking of September.
Let's go together.
No, but early September, I'm trying to work it out in case there was an October election, and then November we can't go because of American elections. I'm trying to plan it all out. It's a nightmare at the minute.
I was pitching a trip to Stephen this morning, and the plans thus far in my head are, let's go for brunch. I said, I'll work on the rest of the holiday, but that's where I'm at.
Yes, I mean, this is going away for work she's talking about. But
it's a work trip.
All she's actually worked out is where to have brunch.
Where we're going to eat.
So
I'll work on the rest and I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
But you're open to it.
You shouldn't have said that because the boss is listening.
And I hope he really likes the idea.
The idea is excellent. All right, on to serious matters for you once again, because divers have recovered the remains of 2 workers from Baltimore Harbour after that cargo ship collided with a bridge, causing it to collapse. What an image that is.
Well, state police say that the bodies of the 2 men were found trapped underwater in a truck near the midsection of the fallen Key Bridge. Efforts to recover more bodies have reportedly been suspended due to dangerous conditions.
Well, structural and civil engineer Julian Carter joins us now. I know this obviously is a couple of days old now, Julian, so you've probably been asked this a million times or more. I can't quite get over how something like that structurally, how it's completely collapsed within seconds after that one collision. You think it would be more structurally sound, more safeguards in place for that sort of thing?
Well, these are actually very fragile, simple structures, and I think if people Google for a picture of the Forth Bridge, there's a very famous photograph that shows how simple in principle it actually is. It's a continuous structure, and we say very little redundancy. It's not a girder bridge. We've got huge spans. And so the way that it's articulated, the way that it actually works, you've taken a centre pier out, and where these bridges want to talk to each other across a joint, which is the pier, that ship has knocked it over, and effectively it no longer can talk, and so it then is just disconnected along its length, and it's fragile. You know, there's very little extra material in there that isn't needed, and so a collision of this kind, it's a catastrophic failure.
What was your reaction when you saw the videos of that bridge coming down? I mean, you're the experts, you'd be able to describe to us, but it didn't appear to have any protective infrastructure at the base, which you do see on some bridges, don't you? So if it were to strike the base of the bridge, it wouldn't actually cause the bridge to collapse.
Yes, and structures, we say they can be massive and passive. You could have, in a design, bearing in mind this is a 50-year-old design, and the container ships were nowhere near the behemoths and huge as they are today. And so you could say, well, we can build a massive pier around a concrete water structure around that pier, or we put pilots on the boat, we put measures in place to de-risk that. But also, let's bear in mind, in a port, typically there are many, many rules on how a ship can enter and leave a port. And the fendering that we have, the dolphins as they're called, are not generally designed to take an absolute full-on frontal collision, which is what's happened here. And unfortunately, sometimes we learn safety by accident. And this is one of those key moments, unfortunately.
And Julian, we don't have long with you, but just in terms of, we're just seeing some live pictures on the screen. We are about to see some live pictures of the bridge in Baltimore. In terms of dismantling that structure and rebuilding a new one, I mean, how long are we looking at that taking?
Well, it's the design. Taking it away is one specialist activity, so it's done safely, because you imagine how all this structure is behaving how it wants to. Then you've got to come in and design the new structure, and then there's the fabrication. America was producing a little bit more steel 50 years ago than it is today. This is a major undertaking. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars here, and probably the works in the river, the sea works are going to be huge. These are not toys. This is serious engineering and millions and millions and millions. Very expensive.
OK. Julian, it's really good to talk to you and to get your expertise. Yeah. Thanks very much indeed. I mean, you can't really tell by looking at it, but it's like 1.4, 1.6 miles long. Yeah. It's a massive structure.
You can only really tell when you see the bird's eye image, which I don't think that we've actually got, but it's a long, vast bridge. It's hard to believe it actually came down as quickly as it did, like you say.
It's just utterly horrific. Utterly horrific. You've got to be thankful, not for obviously those people working on it. Oh. The deaths involved is absolutely awful. But they were working on filling potholes, weren't they? Yeah. So at least it wasn't as busy as it could have been, which is a sort of blessing in disguise, isn't it? But no comfort for those people who are mourning their loved ones.
Yeah, absolutely awful, isn't it? Mm.
Right. Should we take a break from all the doom and gloom and hopefully, fingers crossed, the weather's going to cheer us up a little bit this morning. Here's Greg.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Low pressure dominates the weather for the day ahead. Heavy showers, strong winds across the country. Met Office warnings in force for the strong winds across the southwest of the UK today. 60 to 70 miles an hour around the coasts. Possible some heavy rain across Northern Ireland. Continued risk of flooding here. There's some brighter breaks in between, but for many it will be a showery day. The rain heavy with some hail and thunder in there. Gusty winds too, making it feel quite chilly. So temperatures generally in the range of 9 to 12 Celsius. Add on that brisk wind. Will be a chilly afternoon for many of us. That low pressure continues to swirl its way northeastwards as we go through into the evening time. Some hefty downpours possible. Some clearer spells starting to develop into the early hours, but further showers also pushing in. Under the clearest skies, we could see temperatures dip to mid to low single figures, but for most it will be a frost-free start to Friday morning. Showers from the word go across many parts of the country. Some more persistent rain still across northern Scotland, perhaps some hill snow for a time too. And then through the day, sunny spells and showers is the name of the game. Some of the showers will be heavy with hail and thunder once more. The good news is the winds will be a little lighter compared to Thursday, but with the brisk showers around, it will still feel quite chilly. Temperatures up to around 13 or 14 Celsius. See you soon.
Now it's time for our great spring giveaway now, and it's the final week to see how you could win gadgets, a shopping spree and an amazing £12,345 in cash. Make sure you don't miss out. Here's all the details that you need.
It's the final week to see how you could win big. You could win an amazing £12,345 in tax-free cash that you could spend however you like. Plus, there's a further £500 of shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. We'll also give you a gadget package to use in your garden this spring. That includes a games console, a pizza oven and a portable smart speaker, so you can listen to GB News on the go. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck to you. It's 6:27. Are we in for a wet Easter? It says here. We're just trying to think, did Greg not say in that forecast? We weren't watching, were we? Sorry, Greg. Anyway, we're going to be finding out from another weather expert in just a couple of minutes.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, 6:30 on the nose. Now, forecasters have warned that this Easter weekend could be a complete washout, just weeks after England had its wettest 18 months since records began back in 1836.
Well, joining us now, senior meteorologist at the British Weather Service's Jim Dale. Jim, really good to see you this morning. Is it going to be a washout this Easter weekend?
No.
OK, that's lovely. Thanks for coming in. Let's have a look at the sport for you this morning.
Dear.
So what's going on? What is going to happen?
Yeah, if you'd have asked me that question about 3 days ago, I'd have said yes. But actually, and I always see Easter, by the way, as the pivotal time for when we move out of winter gone into summer coming. And it is, people do stuff. They go outside, the fetes and fairs and all of this. And actually, OK, so tomorrow there will be rain around, there will be showers around. We've seen that on the forecast already. I think Saturday, Sunday, Monday, unless you're very unlucky, you're going to escape. And in the sunshine, say 12, 13, 14, 15 degrees, it's going to feel pleasant. So I'm not the doomster this time around, for a change.
I love the way feeling pleasant is a big boost to us at the moment.
Yeah, because it's been pretty. I mean, even where I live, the Rye is flooded. A swamp when you run it or walk it. I ran it a couple of days ago and it's just come back muddy as hell. It's difficult, and that will apply right across most of the country. We've been through it. Yeah. We've been through the mill, and we're not going to get out of it either. The problem is that we get to the end of Easter, so into Tuesday, and it all ramps back up again, so early April. And I know I said on this programme a few weeks ago, we're going to see an heat wave in April. It won't be in the first 10 days, I can promise you that. So we're going to have to be patient. But at least there's some solace in terms of seeing a reasonable Easter, some light out of the dark, and that's where we are.
And are we going to have any more cold snaps, Jim? Because it has been a little bit brighter. It's been desperately cold.
It can happen. March and April tend to be, you get the diurnal range of temperature more than any other month, so you can go from the sublime to the ridiculous quite easily. So I don't think so. I think we're starting to lose the trend for frost. Yeah, a bit in Scotland maybe in the next few weeks, a few days. But generally speaking, moving out of that zone, I'm just waiting to flick my fingers and the heat wave arrives. That's what normally happens in April time. So yeah, stand by your beds on that one.
Keep clicking. Keep clicking. Now, you've been bringing us some pleasant news. What about hurricanes? Well, not that we've got any on the way just yet, I hope, but we've got the new names, haven't we?
We've got the new names, and Stephen and Ellie, you're not in it.
Aww.
Paul's not even in it. He's sitting on the other
There's no
side at the
point then.
moment. Shall I give you a couple
Are you
of
on
them?
it?
I'm not on it either.
Oh.
But there'll be people out there who are on it.
Oh,
okay?
right.
So, look, it starts with Alberto. Not many people out there on it.
No. That's a strong name,
But
though.
Beryl, and Chris. Chris is on there.
Storm Chris.
Hurricane Chris.
Oh,
if it comes
Hurricane
around.
Chris.
Yeah, Chris, Darby, Ernesto, Francine.
Francine?
Yeah, Gordon.
Oh, that's
Gordon is that one.
Hurricane Gordon. It's got
Helene,
oomph to it.
Isaac, Joyce, Kirk, Leslie, Eli, Milton, Nadine.
Nadine. There's been a
She'll
few
be happy.
Nadines who are a bit
She'll
of a
be happy.
hurricane.
Oh, yeah.
Oscar, Patty, Raphael,
Patty.
Sarah, or Sarah, S-A-R-A. Tony,
Oh, Sarah.
Tony, another common name. Valerie again, and it ends on a royal William.
Oh.
You don't get.
Well,
to
hopefully
Z.
we don't get that far.
Why don't you get to Z?
They don't do U, they don't do X, they don't do Z for
Probably run
whatever
out of
reason.
names very
And it's just one of those things.
weird
And look,
things.
the hurricane season is likely to be a big one because of a La Nina now brewing up. It brings more hurricanes, so stand by your beds on that one as well.
Oh, well, let's hope we don't get as far as William on that one.
A lot of hurricanes, isn't it?
Jim, good to see you this morning. Thanks very much
Thank
indeed.
you very much indeed. Al, it's time to go through all the latest sports news now. Paul Coit is with us.
It should be a snooker one, Jim. It's not Hurricane Higgins. That's what I'd like to have. Hurricane Higgins.
Well
done. That'd be great. Yeah,
It would be fantastic.
yeah.
That
Exactly.
definitely needs to go on the
I
list.
think so, yeah. That's one for the future.
Should we talk about the Euros?
Shall we?
Yeah.
OK, international break is over. Thank goodness, many people say, but we're now back to the Premier League and back to the local football now. Increasing squad sizes. Now, this is the word that, for the Euros, that the squad sizes are going to increase from 23 to 26. Which is good news for you, Stephen, because maybe there's more chance that you're going to get in. Because I know they're looking at you sort of like
That's
whether...
because it give you extra depth on the bench.
That's exactly. Well, that's what you're known for.
Yeah.
Coming off the bench there, and so who knows? The UEFA gathering, it happens on April the 4th in Dusseldorf. And it's because of injuries, because there's so many injuries, and it would suit England. You know, we've got Kane, Saka, Walker, Stones have all been out during this week, so... that's it. So possibly 26 instead of 23. All the managers would talk about it. UEFA will probably agree to it. But I honestly do think that we have the best chance we have ever had of winning something. And I really do. And it's actually England are favourites for these Euros.
Really?
So usually sort of around second or third, but England are favourites. So it's going to be seen, as far as Gareth Southgate's concerned, if he wins... Obviously, it's amazing, but if England do not win, I think it will be seen as a failure.
Oh, dear.
Don't jinx it.
No, don't jinx it.
Don't speak too soon.
I'm not saying they will, but it's the best chance they've ever had.
Okay.
Now, I'm not a tennis aficionado.
Are you not?
I know, that's a shock. It's a shock. Novak Djokovic split from his coach, right?
Yeah.
Goran Ivanisevic.
Correct.
What, as in the player?
As in Goran Ivanisevic, yeah, it is him.
Oh, I didn't know he'd gone into coaching.
It was the first wild card to win Wimbledon when he won that. But he's come in as coach. He's been with him for 5 years, but things have not been going terribly well. There's Goran.
Oh, yeah.
There he is there. And there's Novak. So things haven't been going really well for Novak since the start of the season. Didn't win the Australian Open. See, that's it when you see it as a failure, because he didn't win the Australian Open. Although he was knocked out of Indian Wells by the World 123. So it's like, what seems to be the problem here? Am I not playing well? What shall I do? I'll fire the coach. It's always the coach's fault. It's never... but apparently, they are friends about it. Everything's gone OK. So Goran and I have decided to stop working together. A few weeks ago, our on-court chemistry had its ups and downs, our on-court chemistry. But our friendship was always rock solid. I don't know how Goran feels about that. No. That's what Novak said.
It's like the musical... you know, when people say creative differences.
Yeah, exactly.
In the musical world.
Yeah.
So this is...
Yes.
Off-court chemistry, on-court chemistry.
Or when someone clears off and they say, I'm going to go and spend more time with my family. You know, it's another one of those. I've got nothing else to go to. We know exactly. We can read between the lines.
Should we talk about the boat race this weekend?
Yes, we should, because, again, when I was talking about this yesterday, it's the E. coli levels in the Thames, and it's not good. because Oxford University rowing coach Sean Dowden has called the state of Britain's rivers a national disgrace. Which it is. We look at Paris for the Olympics, and Jim's nodding there. The Seine is fantastic. People can swim.
The Seine or something in Paris,
well, yeah, because they actually can swim. You can actually swim in there, whereas with the Thames, completely the opposite, because it's usually customary at the end. Look, there we are. So this is what happens here. It's usually customary for the winning team to dunk their cocks in the river for about 10 seconds. So that's what was about to happen there. That's the person that actually sits in the boat with the loud hailer. So that was what was about to happen there, but obviously they can't do that now because they'll end up catching something very nasty. So they'll probably just hold them above the river.
Wow, it's a lesson to learn.
It is a lesson to learn, Stephen. That's correct. Absolutely.
Paul Coit, thank you very much indeed. We're out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What are you sniggering at, Ellie?
I'll tell you in the break. Still to come, we'll be looking at what's making the news with Charlie Rowley and Candice Holdsworth, who's got a beautiful baby bump. That's nice, isn't it? This is Breakfast on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning. On Merseyside, South Boundary Road in Kirby is closed northbound because of a shed load. In Greater Manchester, there are no Manchester Metrolink services running between Victoria and Exchange Square because of emergency engineering works. On the M1 in Derbyshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed northbound where a vehicle caught fire between junctions 29 and 29A from the Chesterfield and Mansfield turn to Markham Vale, causing delays. In Bedfordshire, the A5 is closed each way at Hotcliffe after an accident yesterday evening. In London, Cambridge Heath Road is blocked northbound by an accident towards the Hackney Road. A number of buses are diverting there. Delays are possible to Southern Rail services between Lewes and Brighton because of a fallen tree on the line. And in Devon, the A30 is blocked by a jackknifed lorry in the snow near to the Oaklands Farm Cafe at Moncton. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
6:41, good morning to you. Let's have a look at some of the newspapers for you. Start with The Telegraph. It leads with the King thanking the public for extending a hand of friendship.
The Daily Express says the King will call for more kindness in his Easter speech today.
Well,
Maundy Thursday message, we should say.
Because if he does do an Easter message, that'll come out on Sunday. The Times leads with Keir Starmer saying Boris Johnson had the right idea on levelling up.
The Daily Mail says that Rishi Sunak has been urged to call a summer election by his aides.
And The Guardian reports on the outrage over the record discharges of sewage into rivers and seas.
Well, joining us now to go through what's making the news this morning is writer and commentator Candice Holdsworth and former advisor to Michael Gove, Charlie Rowley. Very good to see you both this morning.
Morning.
Should we start, Candice, with the King's Maundy Thursday message?
Yes, so he's going to give a speech saying that we need and benefit greatly from those who extend the hand of friendship to us, especially in a time of need. This is on the Express and Telegraph front pages. I mean, you can understand why he's giving this speech. I think he has made it very clear how touched he's been about the outpouring of well wishes he has received since his cancer diagnosis. Of course, it takes on a different perspective when you think of the more torrid time Kate and William have had, which has really been in my opinion, truly disgraceful, though things seem to be different now. I mean, Kate's obviously received a lot of well wishes. I've been thinking a lot about William, personally, about the strain he must be under. I mean, this must be so hard for him. His father, his wife, he's someone who lost his mother at a young age. And I think he's really been the picture of stoicism.
Oh, absolutely. But people always forget about the primary carer in that sense, or the person who's holding up the family in the work. And they don't get support, really.
They don't. They take massive strain, and it's something I've observed with people I know who've sadly been diagnosed with cancer, and their closest partner just, I mean, they take on so much, and they often don't think that they have a right to talk about their feelings as well. They think, I'm not the one who's ill. You know, I shouldn't complain at all, even though emotionally they're suffering a lot.
I mean, they're carrying the weight of the family, but in William's case also, you know, the weight of the monarchy on his shoulders.
Goodness,
he must certainly be feeling that at the moment.
Definitely, and you know, not to mention, you know, his brother that's, you know, up sticks and left all the way across the Atlantic to live a wonderful life away and just chirp from the sidelines and potentially selling stories to, you know, Netflix or other interviewers are available in the US, I'm sure. But so it's been a very difficult time for him. But you're absolutely right. He's handled it brilliantly.
Let's look at the Times, Charlie. Something I'd never thought I'd say. Sir Keir Starmer's saying Boris had the right idea.
Well, yes, I was about to say I never thought I'd be saying this, but I agree with Sir Keir Starmer because, you know, levelling up was the right idea. It still is the right idea, and it's still going on.
But this is and look, and he may well be absolutely right and being absolutely sincere, but this is a play for the red wall seats, isn't it?
Totally. And it was part of the key reason why Boris Johnson was elected, you know, to unite and level up the UK and where the funding was going or should have been going to these red wall seats, because those are communities who'd voted Conservative for the very first time in 2019 because Labour had left them behind, and, you know, voting for Boris Johnson's Conservatives was a way of obviously, you know, was a way of providing hope and opportunity to those areas where they had been underfunded, they had been undervalued, and so it's a recognition on Sir Keir Starmer's part, and it is a highly political strategy to try and praise Boris Johnson, having tried to get rid of him all those years ago.
But is he just praising him, or is he saying Boris had the right idea, he just didn't deliver it?
Yes, I find it so interesting, though, you know, the sort of top-down approach to levelling up, and I wonder if that is the actual approach that's needed. I mean, politicians promise so much, but then what the people in those areas find out is, well, actually, those promises don't amount to much, and we don't get what we were promised. Is it more sort of allowing people in those areas to do the things that they're good at, which individuals are good at, starting businesses and making themselves prosper and thrive? I think a large part of that in certain places, you know, like Blackpool, for instance, or Manchester, is figuring out why so many people are on sickness and disability benefits. I mean, it's something like a quarter of the population, not allowing them to work and to make something of themselves.
But it's two-pronged, isn't it? Because, I mean, I know Blackpool well, and it's an area which is desperate for... It needs a big injection of cash, you know, just to get things... It's infrastructure and all that sort of thing, which does then help everything else along, doesn't it?
Totally, and it's about devolution, and so making sure that you have local leaders that are actually empowered to do all those things, so make sure that you can get the housing applications through quicker, that you've got the transport infrastructure, that you've got that inward investment in terms of creating those opportunities and jobs. So more devolution has taken place under this government. I think Michael Gove was hitting back at Sir Keir Starmer to say in the Times than any time under the 13 years when Labour were in power. So the argument that the Tories will be making is that don't put levelling up at risk under Labour because they didn't deliver it before. Those northern red wall communities voted Conservative for the first time because they wanted to get rid of the Labour Party. Don't take it back. Don't take the country and your community back to square one.
Candice, let's stick with the Labour Party, shall we? And this is on the front page of the Eye this morning. Labour's plan to ban bonuses for water bosses has been branded a feeble gesture.
Yeah, so this is interesting. This is a huge story. This sort of unites people across the political spectrum, which I think is interesting. Clean water. And some of the activist groups who've been campaigning about this say that Labour's plans, where they want to cancel bonuses for water bosses who pollute rivers, or maybe hold them criminally liable, personally liable. They don't think that's enough. They think the whole industry needs way more policing and regulatory oversight to stop it. It's when you try to dig down, though, into the actual solutions that people are proposing, they are a bit vague. I mean, people don't seem to have a very clear idea of what you can do to stop this water pollution. And I think a lot of it is just passing the buck from one person to another, blaming different things. The water companies will say, oh, it's, you know, things beyond our control, like storms and heavy rainfall. And critics will say, well, the government's lost control of the industry. So trying to get to the truth of exactly what's happening is quite difficult.
The idea of, I think criminal prosecution is one thing which if your neck's on the line, banning bonuses doesn't necessarily do it. Or if you say you only get your bonus if you hit these sewage targets, might work.
Yeah, I think that could be the better incentive. But we're seeing this story time and time again now, and in a time when we're becoming more environmentally friendly, we're becoming more environmentally conscious, the idea that we're seeing increasing amount of sewage and waste going into our open rivers and waters, causing even more pollution. And this is against the backdrop of a sewage system that is fundamentally out of date, that would take billions and billions of pounds to rewire. It's something that you can't do in short order. So the problem, I'm afraid, because of the rainfall that combines with the overflowing of rivers, is only going to make the matters worse. So, the government has really got to get a grip on this, and water companies really need to do all they can to clean up our shores.
Yeah. Oh, it's one.
Shouldn't be a big ask, should it?
Well,
in 2024.
It shouldn't be, but as Charlie says, and he's quite right, it's such a massive infrastructure problem.
Yeah.
That actually, quite how you tackle it, I don't know. Charlie, are we going to see a summer election? There is. When would be most likely for a summer election? There's 1 month where they can't do it, isn't there? I don't know if it's June or July they can't do it.
Well, we had in 2017, Theresa May called the election on the 18th of April, and the election, I think, was on the was it the 18th of June or something like that, or maybe the 3rd of June or something like that. It was a few months later. I know it was called on the 18th of April because that was my birthday, and so we could be seeing a repeat again. I do hope not, but look, we could see one, but I don't think it is likely if the Conservative Party can keep itself together. Obviously, the local elections in May may not be the result that the Tory party would like, and that might prompt more or some or even any letters that we keep hearing about from backbench MPs to the 1922 committee to have a leadership election. But I think most Tory MPs will be sensible enough to know that divided parties don't win elections. Bringing down another Tory leader or trying to reinstall someone else in is not the right approach. The public will never forgive the party for doing it again.
But the longer this takes, the more it's... This is where you can I can understand the thinking of going, well, we'll hang on till things look better and then we stand a better chance. But actually now we've reached a point where the longer we hang on, the more desperate it looks. So it's working against them, I would suggest.
Well, I think you've got to be able to... I mean, the longer they go, the more opportunity that you've got to try and set out your stall. And, the economy... inflation is coming down, the economy is starting to grow, those waiting lists that Victoria Atkins was talking about yesterday are starting to sort of come down. And, we've got to see that roundup policy for the sake of the government to get off the ground, to say to the country, we've said we're going to do all this stuff, and it's delivered on that. So as much time as possible in those areas is not going to be unhelpful. But you're right, Stephen, there comes a point where you as the government, where you as the Prime Minister have to say, look, all of this noise is off, all of this confusion within the country, I'm taking back control. I'm going to focus the minds of the public now, because people are not convinced by Sir Keir Starmer. They are not convinced by the Labour Party. They don't even know what they stand for half the time. So taking back control in that sense by calling the election, really focusing the minds of the public, because the choice will be very clear. There'll only be one Prime Minister at the end of the day. It'll either be Rishi Sunak or Sir Keir Starmer, and that's a very clear choice that the public will have to make.
What about this idea of an election by accident, as our political commentator Andy Williams was saying a few minutes ago? That if the results are so bad on May the 2nd, that actually it's just going to force his hand. The backbenchers are just going to revolt.
Well, this is it. There's been so many reports that people are sort of preparing for that the May 2nd elections are going to be such a bloodbath that they've got no choice. I think it's true. The longer it drags on, the more people start wanting to gamble and take risks. And they think, well, I've got nothing to lose. Let's just go for it. Let's just see. You know, maybe a change of leader will actually improve our fortunes, though it's not clear who that leader could be. And how do you know it would be someone who is more popular with the public or who is more liked? I mean, the outcome of these things is always so uncertain, and they never get the leader that they predicted that they would get. No one thought Theresa May would become leader of the Conservative Party. No one thought Liz Truss would, and they did.
Yeah.
Predictions, when do we think it will be now?
Well, I'm all up for the autumn. I'm
think October,
still ready
November?
For I would go for October, probably, around the conference season.
Sooner than then, I think.
See, I always thought that they would drag it out for as long as possible. Now it is looking like it might be October or November, though I think we do have to watch what happens on May 2nd, because that may force their hand.
Yeah, they'll be thinking that as well.
Yeah, could be.
May the 2nd.
Let's just finish off. I've got a couple of minutes to talk about our passports. This is the Independent, the Eye. Now, this is the thing. I can't get my head around this. Our passport expiry rules have changed. So you may have a valid passport, but it doesn't necessarily mean you can travel on it.
Yeah, it's highly technical. So now that Britain is classed as a third country by the EU, there are certain laws that there's been a rule change that applies to these countries, where if it's been 10 years since the issue date, it's no longer considered valid, even if you have so many months left on it. So it's 10 years since departure, and you need 3 months from the return for it to be valid. So lots of people are going to have a passport date that has been 10 years, even though it says it has a few months, but is going to be considered expired. So you're going to set off on your journey and you're going to get to passport control and they're going to tell you, sorry, it's been 10 years since the issue date, it's not valid. Which is going to...
a lot of my friends, actually.
Yes.
Well, they reckon
people getting caught out.
2.4 million people have been caught out so far.
It does happen, because up till now, as you say, the rules were if you have 6 months left on your passport, you can travel.
Yes.
The people are literally turning up at the gates ready to board their flight.
Yes.
Told you can't even board.
I know, and it's awful. And what people
and it takes weeks and weeks to get a passport.
Or you can do a fast track, which I had to do once when my passport was stolen, and that is ridiculously expensive. I mean, you pay a fortune to get that done. I mean, they do it quickly, you get it done, but you're going to have to pay for it.
So when do you need to change your passport?
If you're coming up to 10 years, get it done.
So if you're coming up to... So you need to... But then can you get it...
9.5 years.
Can you do it early? Will the passport service allow you to do it with, you know, when you've got a year left on it?
I think you can, actually. I think... Oh, you're all shaking your head at me.
No, I don't know.
Can you not?
I was like, do you know,
Can you do it? I'm sure you can, actually. I mean, my passport's not valid until 2028, so I've got time.
You've got time.
Although all this chitter-chat about politics, I'm ageing a bit quicker. I might need to update my photograph before the next passport update. But we'll just have to wait and see.
If you're coming up to 9.5 years, I'd get it done.
Right,
That's my message to you and to everybody watching and listening at home.
No, mine's... I've got loads of time. I've got loads of time left on mine.
Especially for our work trip.
I got a nice, shiny blue one.
Oh, a new one!
I couldn't get a blue one quick enough.
Oh, that sounds fun.
I'm getting a blue... I've lost my passport somehow. I'm getting a blue one.
You can still use the same photo from, 20 years ago, Stephen, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It doesn't age a day, just this one.
Oh, please.
I actually have lost my passport so many times now they've banned me from getting any more.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got in trouble with the passport office. Oh, no. Anyway, that's a story for another time. I should get the weather with Greg.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Low pressure dominates the weather for the day ahead. Heavy showers, strong winds across the country. Met Office warnings in force for the strong winds across the southwest of the UK today. 60 to 70 miles an hour around the coasts. Possible some heavy rain across Northern Ireland. Continued risk of flooding here. There's some brighter breaks in between, but for many it will be a showery day. The rain heavy with some hail and thunder in there. Gusty winds too, making it feel quite chilly. So temperatures generally in the range of 9 to 12 Celsius. Add on that brisk wind, will be a chilly afternoon for many of us. That low pressure continues to swirl its way northeastwards as we go through into the evening time. Some hefty downpours possible. Some clearer spells starting to develop into the early hours, but further showers also pushing in. Under the clearest skies, we could see temperatures dip to mid to low single figures, but for most it will be a frost-free start to Friday morning. Showers from the word go across many parts of the country. Some more persistent rain still across northern Scotland, perhaps some hill snow for a time too. And then through the day, sunny spells and showers is the name of the game. Some of the showers will be heavy with hail and thunder once more. The good news is the winds will be a little lighter compared to Thursday, but with the brisk showers around, it will still feel quite chilly. Temperatures up to around 13 or 14 Celsius. See you soon.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On Merseyside, South Boundary Road in Kirby is closed northbound because of a shed load. Manchester Metrolink services aren't running between Victoria and Exchange Square because of emergency engineering works. Some trams running to Market Street. On the M6 in Cheshire, there's a lane closed northbound where someone's broken down between junctions 17 and 18 from Sandbach to the Middlewich and Holmes Chapel turn. On the M1 in Derbyshire, 3 out of 4 lanes are closed northbound where a lorry caught fire between junctions 29 and 29A from the Chesterfield and Mansfield turn to Markham Vale. On the M5 in Worcestershire, 2 out of 3 lanes are closed southbound after an accident at junction 4 at Bromsgrove causing delays. And in London, the A107 Cambridge Heath Road is blocked northbound by an accident between Parmenter Street and Hackney Road in Cambridge Heath causing delays. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win big. You could win an amazing £12,345 in tax-free cash that you could spend however you like. Plus, there's a further £500 of shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. We'll also give you a gadget package to use in your garden this spring. That includes a games console, a pizza oven and a portable smart speaker so you can listen to GB News on the go. You have to hurry as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Very good morning to you. It is just coming up to 7 o'clock on Thursday, the 28th of March. Today, lawless Britain, a manhunt underway after a man armed with a zombie blade attacked a passenger on a train in broad daylight.
Say the incident started here at Shortland Station with 2 men fighting and ended with a frenzied attack in front of horrified passengers. I'll have the latest.
The King records a Maundy Thursday message highlighting the importance of extending the hand of friendship, especially in a time of need.
Could a summer election be on the horizon? There's new speculation as Downing Street aides apparently fear the Prime Minister won't be able to hold off until the autumn.
The bodies of 2 people have been found in the Baltimore bridge search as 4 others are now presumed dead.
The satisfaction with the NHS hits its lowest level since records began. We're going to be asking whether it's time to privatise the health service.
And in the sport this morning, Gareth Southgate may be able to take 26 players to the Euros instead of 23. Former England captains decided to retire at the end of the season. And being the head of sports, pastimes and fashion here at GB News, I'll be discussing all 3 in one story.
Hello there. We've got strong winds, heavy showers across the country through the day today as low pressure pushes its way northwards. Find out all the weather details coming up in the programme soon.
Good morning to you. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
cutout number 2 ready.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you for why. Because we haven't seen your views this morning yet. It's not that you've not been sending them in, but no one's brought them into the studio yet. Because they're very, very busy out there. So as we await those, I thought I'd talk about... There's 2 things on this bit of paper out the Mirror. Actually, one which is not particularly jolly, is that Eric Morecambe's widow, Joan, has died. 97 she was, just after... she's died on her 97th birthday. There you go. Is Eric Morecambe a bit before your time?
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Don't you really?
No, I don't know who that is. They look like a lovely couple. They do.
This is terrifying. I mean, Morecambe and Wise were on...
Oh, I know of Morecambe and Wise.
Yeah, well, that's Eric Morecambe.
Oh, well, that's nice, yeah.
And that's his wife, who's... I mean, God love her.
Oh, and she's died. Oh, she looks nice.
He died... Would you know, he died back in 1984. Good grief, it's such a long time ago. But the other story, which is a bit more fun, if you've got an old phone box in your town or village or wherever, apparently it's going to be updated.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so they're going to call it a street hub, and it's going to have Wi-Fi in it and adverts and USB charging sockets. So if you see anyone in the phone box now stood there doing nothing for 45 minutes, it's going to... because they're going to be charging their phone.
I think that's quite a good use of a phone box.
Do you think?
Yeah.
But you're literally going to be stood... What are you going to do? Just stand in a phone box
yeah, but
charging
you would
your phone?
Do you know what? The amount of times I get caught out, actually... Can I have the rest of your cutout? Thanks. The amount of times I get caught out, thanks, can't get home because my phone's flat. I'd stand in a box to get it charged.
Would you?
Yeah, and you'd be protected from the rain. I think it's a good idea. I think we should play this.
Oh, what, the Daily Pub quiz?
Yeah. I'll run a few by you.
Right.
What is traditionally eaten on Good Friday?
Fish?
Yes, very good. Who distributes Maundy money to pensioners?
Well, the King.
Yes, very
but
good.
it's not doing it this year, so that's a bit out of date.
And which bird delivers Easter eggs to children in Switzerland?
Oh, I don't know. Stork.
And I'll have to Google that answer. So you've got 2 out of 3 correct so far.
So far.
I'll Google the rest.
All right, there you go. If you know the answers to that one, please let us know. gbviews@gbnews.com. We are going to get them brought in imminently so we can see what you're saying this morning.
Now, a manhunt is underway after a man armed with a zombie blade attacked another man on a train in broad daylight in front of other passengers. Now, if you're watching on TV, a warning that the footage that we're about to show is distressing.
Well, the video circulating on social media appears to show a man in a face mask wielding a very large blade. Police stopped the train and paramedics attended the scene, but the suspect got away.
Well, the victim has been taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. Let's speak now to GB News reporter Ray Addison, who joins us now. Very good morning to you, Ray. A very distressing video we've just seen on our screens there. What do we understand about what happened?
Well, police saying that they received a phone call just before 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Reports that 2 men had been fighting here at Shortlands train station in Bromley in Kent, South London. They got on the train and then we saw that disturbing footage posted on social media, filmed by a passenger, which showed one man standing over the second. It's by the exit to the carriage, and the train is in motion heading towards Beckenham Junction, and the suspect can be seen wielding a very large knife, possibly 10, possibly even 12 inches in length, that knife, and he's repeatedly bringing it down in a stabbing and a slashing motion. Just looking at that footage, I counted at least 4 strikes with that blade. Of course, there could have been more. Now, the victim remains off camera, slumped by that exit, but you can see their legs kind of flailing around as they try to protect themselves. And in the background on that video, you can hear a distressed female passenger screaming, begging the suspect to stop. She appears to be on the phone, possibly to the police or a friend, describing what is happening. And a male passenger can be seen exiting the carriage, and you can hear him. He's on the phone to emergency services, and he's desperately urging them to send an ambulance as quickly as he can. Other passengers in that carriage can be seen watching absolutely stunned as that attack took place. Now, the suspect, as we can see from that footage, is a young black male. He's wearing a black jacket with the hood up. He's got a medical mask on his face as well, white T-shirt. Underneath that jacket, black pants, black trainers as well. And of course, this all prompted a very large police presence. The train was stopped at Beckenham Junction. British Transport Police Metropolitan Police, London Ambulance Service responding along with an air ambulance too. Now, London Ambulance Service saying that they treated the man at the scene before taking him to a London major trauma centre. Of course, train services were understandably disrupted until around about 6:30 p.m. as police continue to deal with that incident. And now we understand that inquiries are ongoing, that manhunt very much taking place. And of course, Western trains, or rather Southeastern trains, saying they've provided CCTV footage to the police to help with that search.
OK, Ray, thanks very much indeed. Now, King Charles is going to talk of kindness and friendship in his Maundy Thursday message a little bit later on.
Now, it will be broadcast during a service in Worcester Cathedral. And this year, the Queen will stand in for the King, who is resting from public duties after announcing his cancer diagnosis.
Let's talk to royal correspondent and writer Michael Cole, who joins us now. I mean, it's a real shame, Michael, that His Majesty can't be present in person, but his message is poignant, isn't it?
Yes, good morning, Stephen. Good morning, Ellie. Absolutely. An important message. These are the first public words by the King since last Friday's announcement by the Princess of Wales of her cancer diagnosis and treatment. He won't be mentioning either her cancer or his own during this audio message to the congregation in Worcester Cathedral. But the message is quite clearly there. It's about reaching out. It's about friendship. It's about serving others. It's about thinking of others. Of course, it all goes back to Jesus Christ washing the feet of the poor in the Bible as his tribute to the ordinary, downcast and challenged people of the world. And of course, the Pope in Rome still goes out to prisons and washes the feet of the prisoners and things like that. This country, a little bit more decorous. We give out, or the King gives out, beautiful decorative purses containing especially minted coins, which are distributed by the yeoman warders of the Tower of London, the Beefeaters. So it's a lovely little ceremony. I've been to several. Interestingly, not these pictures, but a photograph has been officially issued of the King at his desk. And I'm afraid that there it is. He's obviously not fuller in the face. The effect of the chemotherapy, I think, is there. His lips look thinner. And obviously, it's a great strain for anybody. But while you're bearing the burdens of being head of state at the same time as you're being treated, I'm sure it isn't easy for him. It's a very great shame for me to see him. I was 5 years old when he was born. I've watched him and reported on him throughout his life, and I'm very sad to see him in this way. But Queen Camilla will be there today, and she will be doing the honours and distributing to worthy local people these lovely little purses containing the silver coins.
We're not going to see the King today, but we are hoping to see him on Sunday, aren't we, Michael, in Windsor on Easter Sunday, and that will be very heartening for people who are concerned and worried about His Majesty.
Yes, I think that's right. He's determined to be there as best he can, with as many members of his family as possible in attendance. It's an important, of course, it's a day of renewal. Tomorrow is the most solemn day of the year, Good Friday, and then rebirth, with all that means. Christ is risen on Easter Sunday, on Easter Day itself. So an important time. And of course, he has other worries, not least Prince Harry out in California and what he's doing, and other members of the royal family in trouble, real trouble at the moment, notably Kate, his beloved daughter-in-law, as he always refers to her.
OK, Michael, for now, thank you very much indeed. Do you know what? I don't think we should worry too much about that picture, It's one of the first things you said to me is, oh, he looks really ill in it. But as Michael said, he is having chemotherapy.
Yeah.
And that, as you'll know from if you've had it yourself or you've got family and friends who have, it knocks 10 bells out of you. And so he's going to be weaker and more feeble, and so he definitely looks a bit thinner and what have you. I don't think we should panic about that. I think it's more the result of the treatment rather than the cancer.
No, I'd agree with you as well. I just, I do feel sorry for him.
Pale.
Yeah, I mean, God love him, still in a suit, still at his desk, still working.
I mean, it is upsetting, but let's not worry. Let's look on the positive. He's still at it, and he's, fighting away, and that's what matters, I think.
Yeah, definitely does.
Positive.
Yeah.
Now, the Prime Minister's aides have reportedly urged him to call a summer election following concerns that a Tory revolt is brewing.
Well, according to reports, there is much speculation over just how many letters of no confidence in Rishi Sunak have been submitted to the 1922 committee.
Yeah, they can speculate all they like. If you ever hear people say, oh, they're very near the number now, and
nobody knows.
I tell you, do not believe it at all. Sir Graham Brady, who's currently the chair of the 1922 committee, is the only person who knows how many letters there are. Nobody else knows. And I know Graham, actually, quite well.
Do you
I do.
Name-dropping Graham.
I've known him for a long time, actually.
It's Graham to you?
Yes, it is Graham to me. I've known him for a long time, and he does not let that slip to anybody.
He doesn't take nonsense.
No, so the minute you see people going, oh, this many have gone in, it's absolute nonsense. Just, there you go. Anyway,
Will he tell you?
No.
Oh.
He doesn't tell anybody.
Wow.
His wife, nobody. Nobody knows. So there you go.
What's the wife called?
Going into all these private details.
Oh,
now,
you don't know, do you? Not that good.
Lady Brady, to you and me. Let's talk to political commentator Andy Williams, who joins us now. A summer election, Andy, is it likely?
No, I don't think so. I think we're heading for an autumn election. As I always said, Stephen, sorry to rub it in, but I do think that's what's going to happen. I think we're looking at October, possibly November. Actually, the earliest that an election can happen now is Thursday, the 9th of May. So the deadline has passed for an election to happen on the same day as the local elections, which is the 2nd of May. And I think we will end up in a position where it's in October, maybe on the 10th, maybe on the 17th. But I suppose that we could end up, and I think this is where what we're talking about is coming from, we could end up in a scenario where Rishi Sunak is bounced into having to call an election in June or July, because the local election results, it's going to be a bloodbath. The results are going to be so bad. They're going to lose so many local council seats. We're obviously going to see Sadiq Khan elected for a third term as London mayor. And the pressure will then be piled on. There's also a by-election in Blackpool, by the way, on the same day. The pressure will be piled on by people who say, you cannot win. And I think that's where we could see, potentially, a sort of June or July election. But I still think it's more likely that we're looking at the autumn.
Andy, do you think it's a possibility, because there's only one man that can call the election, that man is Rishi Sunak, is it a possibility that even he doesn't know yet, that he's waiting to see what happens on May the 2nd, and then that may potentially, as you say, force his hand?
Yeah, I think that's right. Jeremy Hunt over the weekend let slip that the working assumption, as he put it, is that they're looking at October, but events change rapidly in politics, as we've seen over the last few years. I think one really important and relevant factor is that there are just so many Conservative MPs who don't have the stomach for the fight at this general election. Every week we're seeing more and more, not just MPs you've never heard of, but senior ministers resigning. We have 63 MPs, Conservative MPs, who aren't going to be fighting the next election. And the more of those who we see saying, I'm out, I'm not going to fight it, those are people who actually don't have any reason anymore to defend the Prime Minister and are perfectly, they have no reason not to come out and criticise the government, and that just piles on the pressure as well.
Is there a problem for the Labour Party in all of this, whenever the election's called? Because they've got to motivate their supporters, haven't they? And I wonder if turnout's going to be low, which would not be surprising, There's going to be plenty of people, one would assume, within that saying, well, Labour's just going to win, so I'm not going to bother voting for them. Plus, you've got all the hoo-ha over Angela Rayner, the deputy leader, rising, and that investigation into whether she paid adequate taxes on a home that she sold and what have you. That's being reinvestigated by the police now, so it would seem. So it's not all going in their direction.
Well, let's see. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that Labour supporters are not going to have any reason not to turn out at this election. They're very, very motivated to vote to get rid of this government. So there is no concern about the Labour turnout. The concern is about whether Conservative voters are going to turn out, because there are lots of people who feel very disenchanted. And as I think we've spoken about before, there is a big chunk of people who are sitting there going, am I going to go and vote Reform, perhaps? Because they're taking maybe 14, 15% of the vote, according to the polls at the moment. And some of those people are thinking, am I going to Reform or am I going to stay at home? So there's a big job to be done for the Conservatives to turn people out. But Labour voters, I think, are very motivated. As for Angela Rayner, if something criminal emerges, then that's a different question. But really, I think this is all window dressing at the moment.
OK, Andy, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
I disagree with Andy on that one.
Oh, do you?
I do. I think there'll be... Your solid Labour voters, like your solid Tory voters, will go out and vote. I think it's those people who Labour need to recruit to win an election who may just go, well, Labour's probably just going to win, so I'm not going to bother switching over to them. I'm not going to vote for anybody. So I think that's where if you're a proper Labour supporter and you think this is your chance, of course you're going to go out and vote. Of course you are. But it's the people and it's the swing voters who decide.
Well, they're going to decide everything, aren't they? But you think traditional Tory voters will go out and vote Tory?
If you are dedicated, I mean, that's where the Tory party is falling down now, because that number of core supporters who will vote Tory come what may, come hell or high water, seems to be diminishing. Some of them won't bother, and a substantial number are going to Reform. That's the problem the Tories have got.
I'm talking to a lot of people now who would be traditional Tory voters, don't know who to vote for. They're completely lost when it comes to the next general election. There's a lot of people out there feeling the same way.
Yeah, that's a problem. If you feel lost like that, it should be good to hear from you this morning. If you are literally because I think it's this odd situation now where you've got people saying, I don't know whether to vote Conservative, Labour or Reform, which covers like quite a big political spectrum, and you go, I don't know which one to vote for anymore. It's not uncommon to hear that.
Lib Dems have been almost entirely eclipsed, haven't they, really? Don't seem to be hearing as much from them this year.
No, well, not yet, maybe. Not yet. I'll tell you what worries me about the Lib Dems slightly is that every time they do an election stunt at the moment, it's with big props.
Very gimmicky,
It's very gimmicky, sort of cartoony props, and Ed Davey with this sort of quite strange grin on his face.
Yeah.
And it's hard to take them seriously, that. When you talk to someone like Daisy Cooper, who's the deputy leader, well, she's quite a serious, sort of solid woman, and you sort of feel like you're talking to a proper politician. When you see all the gimmicky stuff, it just seems like a bit of a joke.
Hard to take seriously, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Let us know what you think.
Yep, gbviews@gbnews.com. We'll take a look at the weather now with Greg.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Low pressure dominates the weather for the day ahead. Heavy showers, strong winds across the country. Met Office warnings in force for the strong winds across the southwest of the UK today. 60 to 70 miles an hour around the coasts. Possible some heavy rain across Northern Ireland. Continued risk of flooding here. There's some brighter breaks in between, but for many it will be a showery day. The rain heavy with some hail and thunder in there. Gusty winds too, making it feel quite chilly. So temperatures generally in the range of 9 to 12 Celsius. Add on that brisk wind, will be a chilly afternoon for many of us. That low pressure continues to swirl its way northeastwards as we go through into the evening time. Some hefty downpours possible. Some clearer spells starting to develop into the early hours, but further showers also pushing in. Under the clearest skies, we could see temperatures dip to mid to low single figures, but for most it will be a frost-free start to Friday morning. Showers from the word go across many parts of the country. Some more persistent rain still across northern Scotland, perhaps some hill snow for a time too. And then through the day, sunny spells and showers is the name of the game. Some of the showers will be heavy with hail and thunder once more. The good news is the winds will be a little lighter compared to Thursday, but with the brisk showers around, it will still feel quite chilly. Temperatures up to around 13 or 14 Celsius. See you soon.
Scott on Twitter's just been in touch saying Dartford hasn't got a Labour candidate at the moment. It's interesting. That'll change ahead of the general election, wherever it comes. They'll be getting one in place, not going to miss out on any seat.
Nope, they're not.
Now, let's look at money, should we? The Office for National Statistics have revealed that the country did enter a recession at the end of last year.
Well, this comes as a major blow for Rishi Sunak, who's been vying to turn the economy around ahead of this year's general election.
Let's talk to Chief Economic Advisor for the Centre for Economic and Business Research, Vicky Price. Morning to you, Vicky. How worrying is this? Because it might be a technical recession, but it would certainly, the experts seem to be saying, be very short and very shallow.
It's true. Technical recession is 2 quarters of negative growth. The interesting thing is that this is a non-story in many ways, because we had the data just a little while ago. But there was always a hope that when the ONS, the Office for National Statistics, looked at that again, they may revise the figures a little bit, because overall the economy looked like it only grew by 0.1%. If they had done something in terms of the fall in GDP in the last quarter, not minus 0.3%, but maybe minus 0.1 or something like that, we might have had a bigger overall picture for the UK for last year. And also if they had revised it upwards to a positive, then that would have made quite a big difference in terms of claiming that indeed we got growth again coming back and no recession. But unfortunately, they've left everything unchanged. Normally you see a little bit of a move when they look at the data again. But this time they've said no. We had 2 quarters of negative growth. Therefore, it means we had technical recession last year and growth in 2023 was just 0.1%.
OK, Vicky Price, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, dear. Well, if you are feeling the pinch, then perhaps you need to get your hands on some garden gadgets, a shopping spree and £12,345 in cash. It's our spring giveaway. Lines close this Friday. Tomorrow. Tomorrow? Do they? Oh, heck. So you really have got to get your entry in now. Here are all the details.
Want to be a winner just like Phil?
Obviously, whoever wins it next is going to be as happy as I was, and they're going to get even more money this time round, so why wouldn't you go in the draw?
Enter our massive spring giveaway. There's £12,345 in tax-free cash to give your finances a spring boost. We'll also send you on a shopping spree with £500 worth of vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. You'll also get a garden gadget package. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. Yes, I know you do. You'd be very easily pleased. I'd like the £12,345 in cash.
Yeah,
but you can have the pizza oven.
Yeah, OK.
We can't actually enter, so...
No. Coming up next, should we privatise the NHS? Oh, it's a difficult subject. It's our debate in just a moment.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country.
only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
$7.28. Delayed appointments, hospital waiting lists, lack of staff, strike action. Goes on, doesn't it? Anyway, it's left the NHS in a precarious position.
Yes, according to a report, NHS satisfaction levels are now at an all-time low as people have described their relationship with the public health service as toxic. So, this morning we're asking, should the NHS go private?
Well, let's talk to one of our colleagues, Nana Aquia, and NHS GP Dr David Lloyd. Good to see you both this morning. Nana, is it time for change?
Absolutely. Look, I mean, if you take, and I just did a little bit of research to have a look at the figures. OK, so 7.8 million people are apparently on the waiting list. There's been an 18-week sort of treatment window where you're supposed to be treated. That hasn't been met since September 2016. Record number of waiting. If you're waiting for A&E, only half are met. Wait for 4 hours. And if cancer treatment, well, it's supposed to be 85% target for a 62-day wait. And that, again, hasn't been met. It's at about 60%. The problem is the system doesn't work. And it's quite clear it doesn't work. Yet, if I were to, say, go and try and get an appointment by a private provider, I'd probably be in the same hospital, seeing the same physicians, and I'd be able to book the timing. It simply doesn't work, and we cannot carry on with it like this. You need to maybe perhaps look at a system more like the Netherlands, where everyone pays an insurance over the age of 18. And in that way, you've got different tiers of insurance. You can pay excess for your policy, and that kind of system would be far better. The current one that we have simply isn't working, and people are dying. And now, finally, the golden goose is no longer the golden goose. And I think, it's time to look at it and change it.
Well, let's bring in NHS GP Dr David Lloyd. David, you just heard those stats from Nana there. The system isn't working, is it?
I think the system isn't working because of the article, the thing you were just talking about. We're in a recession. We don't have enough money to pay for any services in this country anymore. We need more money to make a system function. We need more AI because we have an aging population, which is increasingly difficult to look after, who have many things wrong with them. And I take Nana's point. If you were to ring up a private hospital today, you could get an appointment to see a consultant tomorrow. But that consultant has been trained in the NHS. The many hundreds of thousands of pounds it takes to train doctors and nurses is entirely borne by the NHS. The private service is a parasite on the NHS and has ramped up its prices for the very reason that the NHS is struggling, because they realise that the problems of COVID have meant that they're able to see patients as much as they want, and they've just put the prices up for ordinary people who've been waiting for years on the waiting list.
Yeah, but in a way, don't you emphasise the point that there is a real need for change? As you say, these are NHS-trained medical staff, costing us a lot of money to do so, and then end up working in the private sector, either full-time or on the side. I mean, it just highlights, doesn't it, that there needs to be a complete and utter revamp of this, as difficult as that would be.
So why don't we force the consultants and nurses to work in the NHS and ban private medicine, and then we'd have more capacity?
Oh, there's a thought, Nana.
Well, they won't do it, will they? You can't, it's just not going to work, is it? You can't ban people from working within a different sector of, as laudable as that might be. We cannot do that. It's impossible. And people will simply go abroad, go elsewhere where they get a better deal. So you have to make it work within the system that we have. And I also think that when people have to contribute to something, they have ownership of it and they take a sense of their own ownership. And I think when you think it's free, the number of appointments that have been missed by people to see their GP because, well, they don't really see the money coming out from their taxes. It doesn't feel like they're paying for it. It's free at the point of need. So why should I care? If they had to pay for it, so for example, in my model of a private system, if you missed your appointment from a GP, then that fee or fine will be deducted from your weekly or monthly payment that you make for the system. So you would take ownership of your own health as well. You think people are just going to treat you no matter what, then people just literally have a lackadaisical approach to their own personal health and well-being. I've seen it a lot, because I've worked in the health and fitness business for many years.
What do you make of that, David?
So every administrative task that you have to do for missed appointments and missed things adds to the administration costs, which adds to the cost. The NHS has 2% management costs, I think, whereas if you look at other private health systems around the world, those management costs are 10%, 12%, even 20%. So you're wasting more and more money that can be used on frontline services to manage the missed appointment system.
Yes,
I work in the NHS every day. I've been working for 45 years, and I don't get many DNAs. They're desperate to see us in general practice now, so they don't miss their appointments.
But there's an argument with that, David. Although, admin costs, you don't want to see them particularly high. Of course you don't. But on a private side, if this is running more as a private business, well, it does become more streamlined, it does become more efficient. That's always the argument, and we know there is a lot of waste within the NHS.
Well, I think that's spurious, and there certainly isn't at the moment. Every appointment is golden. Every interaction between doctor or nurse and the patient is a very important one, and we make the best of it. And as I say, we've reached a stage in all health services around the world where, with an aging population, where every decade, there's days that every decade of your life you get something wrong with you. So most people are going to be, well, at the moment, 18% of us are over the age of 65. So they will have 6.5 things wrong with them. By the time you get to 80, you've got 8 things wrong with you. And so the costs of looking after people with many different conditions is spiraling out of control in all countries. The answer is not to wreck the system and create something new, but actually to look at the system and make it more efficient and make it better. And that means getting rid of the services that cost us a lot of money, that are actually bankrupting some of our patients nowadays. I've never heard of health bankruptcies before, but we're now getting patients that are taking out bank loans to have their hips done because they've been waiting so long in the NHS. And that's a terrible situation. And it's not because the NHS should be privatized, it's because the NHS should be valued. The NHS provides a safety net for the entire country. It also provides UK industry with an enormous competitive advantage. You look at companies in the US, they pay for their employees' healthcare, which is an enormous cost on them. They get that for free in this country.
OK, we've got to leave it there, I'm afraid. Dr David Lloyd, Nana Queer, thank you both very much indeed.
And you will have a view on that at home. Do let us know what it is, gbviews@gbnews.com.
Paul's got your sport in just a couple of minutes, so don't go anywhere.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Lancashire, the A59 is closed northbound into Preston because of an accident. On Merseyside, South Boundary Road in Kirby is closed northbound because of a shed load. Manchester Metrolink services are running between Victoria and Exchange Square because of emergency engineering works. Buses replaced trains between Chinley and New Mills Central because of a track fault. On the M1 in Derbyshire, 3 out of 4 lanes are closed northbound, where a lorry caught fire between junctions 29 and 29A from Chesterfield and Mansfield to Markham Vale, causing delays. On the M5 in Worcestershire, 2 out of 3 lanes are closed southbound after an accident at junction 4 at Bromsgrove. It's very slow towards and past there. And on the M1 in Bedfordshire, the inside lanes closed southbound after an accident between junctions 13 and 12 from Bedford to the Toddington and Flitwick turn, causing queues. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQs live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQs live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
It's time to go through the sport now with Paul Coit, who is here with us. Morning.
Yes, I am.
With lots of fashion news.
Yes, I have. I have fashion and sports news.
It's
two of my
very good.
favourite things, Ellie. You know that.
Yep, two of my favourite things as well.
Super shoes are a very big thing in running at the moment. You know, they're very light and they're like huge springy things, and that's what they have.
Not cheating.
Well, I think they are a little bit... It's almost like foot doping, but that's what's being used, and also with the Olympics coming up. But we do have... Adidas are talking about this new release, which is coming out, and fashion... well...
Let's have a look at them, then.
Let's have a look and see what you think of these.
What?
There they are. Look at
you're
those.
joking.
This is a joke.
Adidas, they're blurring the line between product and packaging. These Adidas shoes are truly... out of the box.
No, this is April Fool's.
Look at those. The rectangular design takes cues from the original Adidas shoebox, creating the perfect silhouette for an experimental style with chunky laces. The trainers are a statement piece that elevates every look.
Is this not an April's Fool? I mean, seriously, that's on Monday, though.
Yeah, it is Monday. I think they've probably gone early, and it has. Yeah, it's come out on their app, which has all the early releases. Now, I think it's fantastic, though, don't you? Because, you know what? There are people that would wear them.
Oh, yeah.
There are people... I mean, if they were in white, I'd wear them. But, the blue is not my colour. But there they are.
Oh,
so look at those. I mean, it is... And if it is, which we kind of think it is, I don't want to blow the joke, but it is a brilliant one, isn't it?
Do we know how much they cost?
Well, I think they're probably coming in at about £149.99.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, so there we are.
And you would get people paying it as well.
People are mad about trainers. I never understand it.
But
people queue for trainers.
I love the fact they put the laces on the top of the box as well.
Yeah,
very
I think
good.
they're just brilliant.
Crazy. Right, let's talk Euros. Should we? You think it's all good news for England?
There's injuries at the moment. I do think it's going to be good news. I've said this for quite some time. It's the best chance that we've ever had. Who's going to stand in the way? Is it going to be Gareth Southgate? Is he the right man? But the players are probably the best we've had. The defence is a little bit wobbly that we've seen over the weekend, but they're increasing the squad size. Well, I say they are. There's a meeting about this in Dusseldorf, which is happening very soon on April the 4th, where all the UEFA managers of all the different nations will meet, and they would like to extend the squad from 23 to 26. So that's where we are. And
if they do, so they're favourites and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And if they won, would he still go? Would it be a case of going out in a high?
Well, that's the thing. What do? Do you skulk away if things don't go well, or do you walk out when you're as good as you're going to be?
And get a knighthood and all the rest of it.
There'll be a knighthood. But anyway, I've got a little calendar thing here. May 21st is when he announces the training squad. So there's probably... hasn't even said how many players he's going to use for that, but there'll be more than 26. Couple of friendlies, June 3rd and June the 7th. Then on June the 8th, that's when the squad is announced, whether it be the 23 or 26. June the 10th, they're off to Germany, and then June the 16th, first game against Serbia and Herzegovina.
Easy for you to say.
Really wasn't.
Should we talk about Louis Vuitton next time? We are out of time, I'm afraid.
Oh, I saved the Louis Vuitton.
That's a good tease for later.
Yeah, OK. And Justin Thomas, we've got to do that as well.
Oh, yeah, we'll do both of those next time.
Yeah.
OK.
Spent too much time on those crazy shoes, didn't I?
Crazy shoes.
It was worth it.
David has been in touch this morning, who says, that proves it, those shoes, box trainers, the world has gone mad.
That it has.
I think you're probably right there, David. All right, coming up, we're going to be having a look at the papers in just a moment.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.
Has the NHS killed your relative and then lied to you about it? There is an alleged cover-up culture in the NHS. They lie to you about why your loved one died, about poor care, then bury documents with evidence in them, and they try to silence staff who speak out. This is according to the NHS Ombudsman. There are around 11,000 avoidable deaths every year. 11,000. Someone's mum dies, their children know something dodgy happened, and then they're met with a rotten culture, including the altering of care plans, the disappearance of crucial documents, and complete denials. They lie to you, but they really get away with it because the NHS is like a religion, and people dare not criticise it. You'd be accused of NHSophobia. The annual budget is around £180 billion, and we now have about 2 million people working for the NHS. They cannot keep blaming everything on being underfunded and understaffed. If they're covering up medical negligence, it means the problem doesn't get dealt with and it keeps happening. And that is the fault of the NHS managers, the people who run it. They've got the money for 837 non-clinical staff working at English hospitals on the highest paid Band 9 contracts, which is between £99,000 and £115,000 a year. How many nurses would that pay for? How many junior doctors? And they've got the time on their hands to think about making the NHS the world's first carbon-neutral health service. They've got time to consider whether women in labour should be picked up by an electric ambulance that might have to be recharged en route to the hospital. There are NHS managers with a budget of £180 billion, 2 million members of staff, and they're crying about being understaffed and under-resourced. If they spent more time looking after patients instead of finding ways to cover up avoidable deaths, then maybe we'd have a better health service.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Time to see what's in the papers for you this morning with the writer and commentator Candice Holdsworth and former advisor to Michael Gove, Charlie Rowley. Good to see you both this morning. Let's have a look at the Times, Charlie, should we? What's this about shoddy security in prisons?
Yes, this is a prison exposé undertaken by the Times, an undercover journalist at the Times. There's a double-page spread going into all the detail on page 4 and 5, and it is effectively demonstrating how there is a total lack of grip in terms of security in our prisons. This is HMP Bedford, a Category B prison which homes and houses prisoners such as sex offenders and violent offenders, and effectively a undercover journalist was able to apply for a role and 3 weeks later was given a job there through an agency. He passed through security multiple times without having any kinds of checks at all, so he could have brought anything into the prison, could have handed any kind of weaponry to prisoners, could have aided escapes, could have helped in any which way possible, could have even attacked the prisoners if they wanted to. There was no real vetting. It is just a total scandal, an exposé on the lack of security in our prisons that are already overpopulated, that are crumbling.
It's ridiculous, actually, because if you apply... I know someone who applied for a job at the prison service not that long ago, because they're very keen to recruit people at the moment. If you're looking for a job, good money as well. But there's lots and lots of processes to go through.
Yes.
How come third-party things can just sort of walk in?
It's such an oversight. I mean, this is an extraordinary exposé. I mean, the journalist who wrote this said a simple background check would have revealed he was a Times journalist, but it didn't. So there is obviously a problem with recruitment, and they're fast-tracking and they're not looking into people properly. I think this has really become an issue, a public issue, since Daniel Khalif, who escaped from Wandsworth prison last year, was able to leave. I mean, we don't know exactly what the circumstances of that were, but many former prison officers have said they've kind of been waiting for something like this to happen because there is just such a problem with overpopulation, understaffing, just lax security measures. I mean, what this journalist exposes in this piece as well, it just sounds like the prisons are chaotic. I mean, they're filthy as well. I mean, he said that was one of the things that he really noticed, the squalid conditions in the prison. So, I mean, it's clear that there's a lot of organisational chaos going on.
Yeah, I mean, I know there will be people watching saying, well, they don't care if prison conditions are squalid. But if you want people to come out and be different, then you've got to have them in decent conditions.
Oh, yes,
So,
leading
right.
to more criminality, surely. These sorts of conditions. Candice, let's stay with you, shall we? And the Labour Party being urged to reveal their plans for childcare funds.
So this is in the Eye, page 6, and this is such a huge issue for me at the particular age I'm at now, where people sort of have children in nursery care, and there's been this new rollout of funding for children aged 2, which you previously didn't have before. And it's been a game changer for a lot of parents, actually, especially in terms of the cost of living crisis. You've also got this fertility crisis. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, maybe now I can afford to have that other child. But there have been problems with the system as well, because not all nurseries are able to provide this care. So Labour has said that they are going to review it and they're not going to commit to rolling it out. But obviously this is going to be really bad for the families who are relying on it, because anecdotally I know a lot of people who have signed up to it, who've had no problem getting it, they've budgeted accordingly, and if it's taken away, it will be really disastrous.
Yeah, it's going to be a big problem. But yet, amidst all of this, people who work in the healthcare sector saying we can't take any more people in, we cannot get the staff because we can't afford to pay the staff anything above minimum wage, and staff are leaving for better paid jobs, you know, behind a supermarket till or whatever?
This is such a problem. It's a problem in the childcare sector and the caring sector. They do lose a lot of people to the supermarkets, absolutely. I mean, it is just a general problem all over the country of workforce problems, not being able to staff the nurseries. And in certain rural parts of the country, they were saying the demand is huge, but the supply is very low. And we have to figure out why that is, because the early years are so important. Nursery care is so important. It's not only for getting women back into work. Children actually benefit a great deal from a good nursery place.
Get socialised.
They do that, like this whole world blossoms for them. You know, they get all their little friendships, the mums get friendships out of it. It's such a good thing, and I think it's something we need to put a lot more into.
OK. Charlie, can we have a look at the sun? And then what they're calling an eco-loon.
Yes. Well, they're all eco-loons if you're a member of Just Stop Oil, in my opinion. But this is a lady or a woman called Phoebe Plummer, who is probably embarrassed as a plum, I should imagine, after her latest escapade.
What's she done?
Well, she turned up. She's got a restraining order, effectively, on going to West Reading and his house. She delivers a lot of letters to MPs. She's been blocked from doing so from the Metropolitan Police.
Well, she's got it in for the Shadow Health Secretary, has she?
She has, and she turned up at his supposed home to deliver another letter, to which, and filmed it and tweeted it, or X'd it, if that's whatever the appropriate term is, to the Metropolitan Police to say, "Hi, Met, you know, that your systems aren't working. I'm still here, still delivering letters."
Oh, right. So she was she was admitted...
Broke her bail conditions. That was yes.
Oh, right.
But she, I'm afraid to say, she delivered it to the wrong home. It wasn't West Streeting's house at all. To which he tweeted her that it's not
his actual address,
and said good luck next time. But this is the woman who also threw paint over, or soup over, the Van Gogh painting. You know, who takes the law onto themselves. I mean, it is ultimate crack pottery, and she has been left with egg on her face.
Okay. Oh, well, better than paint on your dress, isn't it, I guess? I've got sympathy with people who want to protest about things. I do. Not that I've ever done it, but I believe in people's right to protest and have their voices heard and all the rest of it. But it's when all this lot, they just go far too far.
They do.
It becomes personal vendettas.
It's so true. They go too far, and you can't rely on their common decency anymore. They just cross boundaries that shouldn't be crossed. I mean, turning up at people's homes, that's really intimidating. I mean, in this case, he was kind of amused by it. But in other cases, it's pretty bad. I mean, you may have your family at home, they're not involved in politics. And we know on the more serious end, like with the MP Mike Freer, it's actually driven him out of politics.
But, you know, even in the wake of Joe Cox and Sir David Amess, I don't think you should be turning up to MPs' houses. Because it is threatening. I mean, even if you don't mean any physical harm, it is threatening to them and their families.
Totally. I mean, as Candice was saying, you know, when you get to your home, you know, that is your sort of sanctuary, that is your castle. You know, you become the mum, the dad, the son, the daughter. You don't become the MP necessarily when you're in your own home. And I think there has to be that level of protection, that safe space for you as a member that is in a member of Parliament that's in clearly public life. But I'm afraid Phoebe did ask, actually, whoever she did send this letter to, she asked that particular resident whether they could forward it on to West Streeting.
Did she?
Because, and goodness knows how that individual will know where West Streeting lives, because it wasn't his house, it wasn't even in the right borough. So,
oh, really?
You know, the tactics of Just Stop Oil are clearly sort of falling...
But she can't be done for breaching her bail conditions either, then, because she didn't.
Quite.
Even though she intended to.
Yes.
Oh, well,
sadly.
She's free to go another day.
But I still wonder how much, I mean, I always want to know this, how much incentives on social media play into this, because they want that viral moment.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Candice, Charlie, thank you very much indeed. Time for your weather.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Low pressure dominates the weather for the day ahead. Heavy showers, strong winds across the country. Met Office warnings in force for the strong winds across the southwest of the UK today. 60 to 70 miles an hour around the coasts. Possible some heavy rain across Northern Ireland. Continued risk of flooding here. There's some brighter breaks in between, but for many it will be a showery day. The rain heavy with some hail and thunder in there. Gusty winds too, making it feel quite chilly. So temperatures generally in the range of 9 to 12 Celsius. Add on that brisk wind. Will be a chilly afternoon for many of us. That low pressure continues to swirl its way northeastwards as we go through into the evening time. Some hefty downpours possible. Some clearer spells starting to develop into the early hours, but further showers also pushing in. Under the clearest skies, we could see temperatures dip to mid to low single figures, but for most it will be a frost-free start to Friday morning. Showers from the word go across many parts of the country. Some more persistent rain still across northern Scotland, perhaps some hill snow for a time too. And then through the day, sunny spells and showers is the name of the game. Some of the showers will be heavy with hail and thunder once more. The good news is the winds will be a little lighter compared to Thursday, but with the brisk showers around, it will still feel quite chilly. Temperatures up to around 13 or 14 Celsius. See you soon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Now, Manchester Metrolink services aren't running between Victoria and Exchange Square because of emergency engineering works, with some trams running to Market Street. Now, trains between Manchester Piccadilly and Sheffield are diverting via Stockport, with buses running between Chinley and New Mills Central because of a track fault. On the M1 in Derbyshire, 3 out of 4 lanes are closed northbound, where a lorry caught fire between junctions 20 and 29A from the Chesterfield and Mansfield turn to Markham Vale, causing delays. On the M5 in Worcestershire, 2 out of 3 lanes are closed southbound at junction 4 at Bromsgrove after an accident causing queues. On the M1 in Bedfordshire, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident between junctions 13 and 12 from Bedford to the Toddington and Flitwick turn, with queues towards there. And train services are suspended between Watford Junction and St Albans Abbey because of overhead line problems. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Want to be a winner just like Phil?
Obviously, whoever wins it next is going to be as happy as I was, and they're going to get even more money this time round, so why wouldn't you go in the draw?
Enter our massive spring giveaway. There's £12,345 in tax-free cash to give your finances a spring boost. We'll also send you on a shopping spree with £500 worth of vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. You'll also get a garden gadget package. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats, and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good morning to you. It is...
It is 8 o'clock now.
It is 8 o'clock now. It's called Talking to Time. It's a professional skill. I'm going to teach you how to do it. It's 8 o'clock on Thursday, the 28th of March. Today, a manhunt is underway after a man armed with a zombie blade attacked a passenger on a train in broad daylight.
Police say the incident started here with 2 men fighting at Shortland Station and ended with a frenzied attack in front of horrified passengers. I'll have the latest.
The King records a Maundy Thursday message highlighting the importance of extending the hand of friendship, especially in a time of need.
I'm live in Worcester, where Her Majesty the Queen is expected to distribute Maundy money on behalf of the King. His message, the first time we've heard from him since the Princess of Wales told the nation of her cancel battle. More details shortly.
Could a summer election be on the horizon? Speculation arises as Downing Street aides fear the Prime Minister may not be able to hold off until the autumn.
Transport for London bosses are under fire after banning an advert because it supposedly promotes obesity by featuring a hot dog. We'll be debating, has the UK become a nanny state?
And in sport this morning, Gareth Southgate may well have a bigger squad at the Euros than expected. Former England captain will retire at the end of the season. And when you Novak Djokovic and you're not playing very well, what do? You fire your coach, of course. Or should I say, stop working together with your coach.
Hello there. We've got strong winds, heavy showers across the country through the day today as low pressure pushes its way northwards. Find out all the weather details coming up in the programme soon.
Morning to you. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News. Oh, we've got lots of views here. Where do you want to start? NHS or passports?
Passports.
Go on then. Malcolm says, I filed my application on time. Well, we're talking about this because if you've got anything more than 10 years on your passport, it's expired. Even if you think you've got 6 months left, you don't. New EU rules. So do watch that on your passports. Malcolm says, I filed my application on time.
Online.
Online. Thank you. Took a selfie and submitted it on Sunday, paying the £85 fee. The new passport arrived 6 days later. Well, isn't that wonderful? Excellent service, he says.
Yeah, Tim, just renewed my passport online. It was completed within 10 days. Very good and easy system.
Oh, Victor, well, you're all very pleased. Victor, I live abroad and did the whole job online. I chose to use couriers, so it's a bit more expensive, just over £100. Endless series of emails, but I was mega impressed by the service.
There you go.
Well, it's quite nice to have happy views, isn't it? People are happy with passport service, that's good.
I have to say, when I got my passport done, it was very quick.
Oh, I've had right trauma at the passport.
Have you? Oh, yes, but you've lost about 18 of them.
I've lost hundreds of them. I think they thought... No, I think I've lost 3. I think they thought I was selling them on the black market or something. Because they said to me, they handed me my last passport. I was in tears because I was meant to be going on holiday the next day. And they said, this is your last one now.
You can't have any more.
Can't have any more now. So I hold that passport
very carefully.
Very carefully on my flights now.
Oh, there you go, yes. Do not lose that one, otherwise you've had it. You're grounded.
And check your passports, people. If it's over 10 years, you need to get a new one. It's only going to take 10 days, according to our viewers. So that's a good thing.
Crack on with it.
Yeah. Keep those views coming in. gbviews@gbnews.com.
Now, a manhunt's underway after someone armed with a zombie blade attacked a man on a train in broad daylight in front of other passengers. Now, if you're watching this on TV, a warning the footage we're about to show is distressing.
Well, this video circulating on social media appears to show a man wearing a face mask and wielding a large blade. Police stopped the train and paramedics attended the scene, but the suspect got away.
Well, the victim's been taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. Let's get the very latest from our reporter, Ray Addison. Morning to you, Ray. What do we know at this stage?
Well, passengers here starting their daily commute deeply concerned about this horrific incident which took place yesterday afternoon. Police receiving those emergency calls just before 4 o'clock in the afternoon of 2 men fighting on the platform here at Shortland Station, on the train as well. And then that horrific footage released, filmed by a passenger on social media, showing one man standing over the other, wielding that very large knife. Difficult to say exactly how big, maybe 10, maybe 12 inches in length, and repeatedly bringing it down in a stabbing motion. That passenger slumped by the door of the train, the exit to the train there, and kicking his legs out, trying to defend himself as best he can as that attack continues to take place. And of course, horrified passengers on the train, one woman in particular screaming, begging for him to stop. Another man exiting the train, exiting that part of the cabin, calling police on the phone to emergency services, begging them to bring an ambulance as quickly as they can. And of course, it's only around a 2 or 3 minute journey between this station and Beckenham Junction, and so a very short attack, but must have felt like an eternity for the victim. Police obviously responding, that train being stopped at Beckenham, and then of course now this manhunt is underway. But passengers telling me as they start their commute today that it has deeply concerned them.
Sometimes I bring my son on this train. So yeah, I've heard of a lot as well. I've heard of lots of muggings at Hayes train station as well. So yeah, it's a big concern.
To think that this sort of attack can happen so common now in the afternoon.
A lot about school children taking phones off children and wearing masks on the train. So it does seem to be at the time that children are leaving school that it's happening.
Does it worry you to think that, because this was like broad daylight, 4 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah, no, absolutely, it's concerning for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's tragic. I feel for the families, you know, it is what it is.
I'm commuting, so I mean, it's getting worse, and I don't think it's getting any better.
Well, British Transport Police saying that the victim remains in hospital with life-threatening injuries. His family has been informed, and there's going to be an enhanced police presence around this station and around other stations in the area as well, as police carry out those urgent inquiries.
OK, Ray Addison there for us. Thank you very much indeed.
Now, King Charles is going to speak of kindness and friendship in a Maundy Thursday message later on today.
Well, it's going to be broadcast during a service in Worcester Cathedral. This year, the Queen will stand in for the King, who is resting from public duties after undergoing treatment for cancer.
Let's talk to our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, who joins us now. I mean, it's a real shame that the King is not able to attend, but what do we know about the message he's recorded, Cameron?
Yeah, morning, Stephen. Morning, Ellie. Of course, it's the first time since 1980, actually, the Maundy service has been held in Worcester Cathedral. The King's message, he recorded it earlier this month in Buckingham Palace. He's also recorded a Bible reading. He's going to stress the importance of acts of friendship, especially in a time of need. Now, it's the first time we would have directly heard from His Majesty since the Princess of Wales's video message on Friday disclosing her cancer battle and chemotherapy. Now, the message, we're told, does not directly refer to His Majesty the King's cancer battle or indeed the Princess of Wales's. He will say how Jesus sets an example of how we should serve and care for each other, and how as a nation we need and benefit greatly from those who extends the hand of friendship to us. Now, of course, the King is head of the Church of England, and Maundy Thursday is a very much religious occasion. It's an important event in the royal calendar every year. It commemorates Jesus washing the feet of his disciples the day before Good Friday, where he was crucified. And the service to do with the royal family here in the United Kingdom dates back to the 1600s, where Charles II distributed money to the local community. Well, today, Her Majesty the Queen, of course, will be standing in on behalf of the King, who is continuing his cancer treatment. She will distribute 2 purses to 75 men and 75 women. That is the age of His Majesty the King, and they are filled with commemorative coins, or in other words, Maundy money. Now, there is a slight headache for the monarchists here and members of the royal family, because if you just look over there to my right, there's a huge yellow banner, and that is the Republic protesters, a very noisy and loud campaign group which have, since the King ascended the throne, been at pretty much every royal occasion. So they are going to be perhaps making their voices heard. But there are also lots of crash barriers. They are expecting a huge crowd here in Worcester. As I was driving in today, Union flags were draped on pubs and on the roads down into the centre of the city. So they are expecting a big royal turnout to support Her Majesty the Queen and by extension the King. And we are expecting to see the King at St George's Chapel in Windsor on Easter Sunday, although royal sources tell me it's going to be a scaled back service because doctors have advised the King not to be around large crowds at the moment.
Thank you so much, Cameron, for bringing us that.
You know, Republic have got a right to have their... I mean, I don't agree with Republic, but, you know, they've got a right to have their voices heard. They've got a perfect right to hold their opinions. It just seems to me, because the King is not well, does it just seem a little bit distasteful? Maybe I'm being oversensitive. Maybe I'm being oversensitive and they should just crack on and do what they want, wherever they want to do.
No, I do get your point.
But,
and also, the king isn't even there. And their signs
No.
usually say, not my king, don't they? So
yeah, it just doesn't
you probably have a day off today.
Just doesn't seem quite right when he's not well like this.
And vulnerable. Mm.
But maybe, you know, they should just carry on regardless and have their voices heard, and I don't object to that.
Mm.
But I
It's
don't
also
like
doing it peacefully.
I don't like it when someone's not well. Put it that way, I'm a big softie.
Yeah,
something like that.
you are. Let us know what you think. gbviews@gbnews.com.
Now, the Office for National Statistics have confirmed that the country entered a recession at the end of last year.
Well, it comes as a major blow for Rishi Sunak, who's been vying to turn the economy around ahead of this year's general election.
Well, the Chancellor reacted to the news earlier this morning.
Well, these numbers confirm, I think, what we already knew, which is despite the Bank of England predicting the longest recession in 100 years, in fact, GDP grew, albeit marginally, last year. That's obviously very welcome, but one of the ways that we're going to help that growth is by supporting families get back into work with a big childcare offer. And what will be a hammer blow to those families is that just this week, Labour have said that they may refuse to guarantee that free childcare for every child over 9 months. That will be a huge disappointment to many families.
It's worth saying one of your targets this year, your pledges, was to try to grow the economy, or rather last year. Yes, there was a little bit of growth over the year, but the final 2 quarters the economy contracted. So haven't you, by most measures, failed in that pledge?
Well, the Prime Minister's pledge last year was to halve inflation, and he delivered on that. In fact, inflation has fallen from over 11% to 3.4%. Having done that, he then said we would grow the economy. I don't think any of us were expecting the economy to actually grow last year. The Bank of England wasn't, the Office of Budget Responsibility wasn't. In fact, it did, albeit at a very slow rate. And that is a testament to the resilience of the economy, but also the fact the government took some very difficult decisions early on to make sure we got the economy back on track.
We've just heard the news this morning, Thames Water confirming that it's not going to get the funding it needed. What's your reaction to that, and would you step in to support Thames Water customers if necessary?
Well, the Treasury will continue to monitor very carefully what's happening at Thames Water. Our understanding is that the company is still solvent, and today's news should not have an impact on the services received by customers. Obviously, there are parts of the country where the service has not been up to scratch, including in my own constituency, and local MPs will continue to hold Thames Water to account in those situations, but overall we will continue to watch the situation very carefully.
Finally, Keir Starmer has said that Boris Johnson was right about levelling up. It's just a shame that this government seems to have forgotten about that mission. What's your response to that?
Well, the Labour Party in office devolved no powers to local authorities. In just the last 2 years, we have devolved powers to 2/3 of local authorities. I'm afraid this is a smokescreen for the fact that just this week the Labour Party have said that they are refusing to guarantee the free childcare offer for every child over the age of 9 months. That is going to be a hammer blow to families up and down the country who, from next week, are going to start to benefit from the biggest ever rollout of childcare in our history, £6,900 on average of support. And I think Labour don't want people to know that they've said this, which is why they are putting out this smokescreen, and it's very disappointing.
Okay, Chancellor, thank you very much.
Well, there's the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt, talking about a few things, but also reflecting on the fact that the ONS has confirmed we did fall into recession last year. He does make a valid point that the Bank of England had said it was going to be the deepest and hardest recession for 100 years. And actually, we just sort of teetered on the brink. Technical recession, they called it. But nevertheless, what we didn't see, of course, is growth and substantial. There was some growth, but very, very small amounts. We do need the economy to start moving again. Of that, there is no doubt.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the weather, shall we now, with Greg.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Low pressure dominates the weather for the day ahead. Heavy showers, strong winds across the country. Met Office warnings in force for the strong winds across the southwest of the UK today. 60 to 70 miles an hour around the coasts. Possible some heavy rain across Northern Ireland. Continued risk of flooding here. There's some brighter breaks in between, but for many it will be a showery day. The rain heavy with some hail and thunder in there. Gusty winds too, making it feel quite chilly. So temperatures generally in the range of 9 to 12 Celsius. Add on that brisk wind, will be a chilly afternoon for many of us. That low pressure continues to swirl its way northeastwards as we go through into the evening time. Some hefty downpours possible. Some clearer spells starting to develop into the early hours, but further showers also pushing in. Under the clearest skies, we could see temperatures dip to mid to low single figures, but for most it will be a frost-free start to Friday morning. Showers from the word go across many parts of the country. Some more persistent rain still across northern Scotland, perhaps some hill snow for a time too. And then through the day, sunny spells and showers is the name of the game. Some of the showers will be heavy with hail and thunder once more. The good news is the winds will be a little lighter compared to Thursday, but with the brisk showers around, it will still feel quite chilly. Temperatures up to around 13 or 14 Celsius. See you soon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's time now for our spring giveaway, and it's the final chance to see how you could win gadgets, a shopping spree and an amazing £12,345 in cash. You'd be happy with a pizza oven, wouldn't you?
Yes, please.
Well, you don't need to miss out. Here's all the details that you need.
It's the final week to see how you could win big. You could win an amazing £12,345 in tax-free cash that you could spend however you like. Plus, there's a further £500 of shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. We'll also give you a gadget package to use in your garden this spring. That includes a games console, a pizza oven and a portable smart speaker, so you can listen to GB News on the go. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Ellie thinks she's won already, don't you, with that? Because she's planning this little trip for us. She's decided that we need 3 days to recover from the flight and business class flights each way and all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
even though
quite an extensive plan we've got.
It's quite an extensive plan.
Yes.
None of that's going to happen. It'll be cattle class and then Holiday Inn.
And no time for brunch.
No time for brunch.
Or ice skating.
Or ice skating.
Which I did write down on our list.
It's hilarious. Anyway, still to come, has the UK become a nanny state? We'll debate that in just a moment.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together. For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
This story caught my eye. Lloyds Bank, right, they own the insurance company Scottish Widows. They have now issued some kind of suggested guidance about which word to try and avoid upsetting people or perhaps be as inclusive as possibly can be. One of these words is widows, which really caught my eye because of the amount of stupidity. If you own a brand literally called Scottish Widows, you can't then be saying that the word widows is triggering and offensive. Anyway, because it is so ludicrous, I need to move over from that part. because I want to talk about the broader issue. So many organisations, they have what they call ESG. I'm going to bring a graphic up on the screen in case you're not familiar with what this is. But it's a sense of kind of government, and I would say it's almost like a spine. It underpins so much of what business does today. It stands for environmental, social and governance. And it's around things like how does a business perform when it comes to their environmental impact? How diverse are their employees? How diverse is their board? And so on and so forth. Do you think ESG is a force for good and much needed within business or not, Ben?
It is the introduction of systemic institutionalised prejudice in the United Kingdom, which is going to damage dreadfully our economy, but also our culture, our cohesion as a society, and it's undermining, again, coming back to it, the nation-state that is the United Kingdom. ESG has to be ditched.
Strong words. Judita, do you agree with him?
I don't agree, because I think that with ESG, when you have them, what you're having an increase in is specialists in ESG being introduced into companies to kind of imbricate it into how the company functions. If you're moving in a direction of making your company's functionality be optimized in a way that is inclusive of anyone from any background who has the qualifications to occupy that position, that is a good thing.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
Affects us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Now, TfL bosses have come under fire after banning an advert... Oh, God. They've banned an advert for a comedy show because it had a hot dog on it, because that supposedly promotes obesity.
Well, the comedian Ed Gamble has swapped the...
Lose that strap so we can see the hot dog.
It's in his mouth, isn't it?
No, it's on the table.
Oh, it's on the table.
There you go.
Oh, and it's ketchup all over his shirt. OK.
Yeah.
The comedian Ed Gamble has swapped the image of the fast food favourite in favour of a cucumber instead. And there's the cucumber on the plate.
Which obviously makes no sense now in terms of why has he got ketchup all over his T-shirt.
Yeah.
If you're listening on the radio, you'll have to Google it to have a look. I mean,
You're not missing a lot.
It's crazy. So is the UK turning into a nanny state? Let's talk to former presenter of Fat Families, Steve Miller, and nutritionist Olivia Parry. Good to see you both this morning. Olivia, it's a comedy show. He's not promoting eating hot dogs, is he? Is this just a load of nonsense?
Well, it's given him great advertising. I'd never heard of him before, had you?
Yes.
But, I mean... The thing is, we have a huge problem with overweight and obesity in this country. We're fourth in Europe. It's big business. Advertising for food companies is big business. They make so much money. You just have to switch on primetime TV to watch, food after food advertisements. And it's for the youngsters as well, who don't have the nutritional education. We're not taught cookery in school anymore. People go to college and to university, they don't know how to cook.
But
and it leads
forgive me for jumping in, Olivia. Forgive me for jumping in, but the whole point with this is it's an advert for a comedy show.
Yes, I know, but this is a wider issue, isn't it? It's always there. It's always there in the background. Why don't they advertise or make a joke out of vegetables instead, or It's just always there. You're lucky if you can hear anything on the radio advertising healthy eating. And, you know, the whole problem is that the NHS, which is the taxpayer, we spend £25,000 on diabetes every minute. You know, it leads to serious diseases. This is serious. I know this is, you know, I might think, oh my gosh, you know, really.
Type 2 diabetes, let's just clarify that one. I say that as a type 1, as I think, Ed Gamble is. I might be wrong on that, after I think he's a type 1 as well. Steve, what do you think?
I think it's a load of old tosh, to be quite honest with you. It's a hot dog. In fact, I wish they'd have put onions on the hot dog. A bit of what you fancy won't hurt you. You should eat 80-20 anyway, because denial is doomed. But there's a bigger picture here. You know, we talk about a nanny state. I actually think, arguably, we're becoming an authoritarian state. Opinions banned, comedy banned, the England flag banned. It's like we've got to wear a virtual muzzle. People are frightened to speak out these days. You know, it's stifling creativity in business. It's stifling learning as well. So this isn't, you know, just about a flaming hot dog on a plate. It's a bigger picture. You start talking to people nowadays, and a lot of my friends will say to me, oh, you wouldn't be able to say that these days. Oh, that might cross a line. According to who? I'll say what I want, thank you very much. So actually, I think all of this about, oh, he's got a hot dog on his plate is just utter ridiculousness, completely bonkers. And fair play to him, it's got him the publicity that maybe he didn't think he'd get, actually. So, you know, there's always a plus.
Olivia, are we stifling people?
I think it's more about nudging people in the right direction, not telling them what to do. But when you think about the bigger picture, you know, obesity and overweight does lead to heart disease and cancer and all these other nasty illnesses. And I'm sure, you know, all of you have had people in their lives who've been affected by them. I've been personally affected by them. And, you know, seeing someone go through heart failure when they could have eaten healthier.
Yeah, but you're not going to deal with it with a hot dog. You're not going to deal with that because there's a hot dog on a plate. You're going to deal with it by being more blunt, by saying to people, maybe an advert that says, if you're fat, think before ordering when you're in a restaurant. If you're fat, think before swallowing. You know, you've got to be much more blunt about it. You've got to make it more emotional. This guy in a hot dog on his plate with a bit of sauce on it is not going to be responsible for making us become blooners.
Unfortunately, many people aren't educated enough or have been brought up in the right, you know, with parents who know how to cook.
That's very patronising. No, you're being very, very patronising. It's very patronising. Typical middle-class patronising stuff, that. You know, people aren't stupid. They know what they should eat to be slimmer. People do know. And what nutritionists have got to do is stop giving their sermons out that actually confuse the nation, because one nutritionist will say one thing, another nutritionist will say another. What you should be saying is actually never give up a bit of junk food, because a bit of what you fancy is pretty good. It's pretty good. Life would be really dull and boring without a hot dog with onions or a bag of chips occasionally, a packet of crisps and a nice bottle of wine to wash it down.
No one likes to be told what to do, me included. But I still say that if you can nudge people in the right direction and encourage a positive, healthy eating way of living and enjoying life, you know, healthy food can be tasty. It's not like,
you think a cucumber on a plate is going to educate people to go out today and put fruit and veg in the trolley?
No, in this instance, yes, it has, you know, it's created a big media buzz. I agree with that. But I think overall, we do need to improve our nutritional education and encourage people to think about eating healthier. That's where I stand. And I don't tell people what to do. I encourage them and I allow them to realize that when they do eat healthier, they feel a lot better.
You've got to be honest. You've got to be honest, though, Steve.
It's failed. Sorry,
Steve. You've got to be honest. If anyone getting on the tube, if they see that hot dog, maybe they're going to be a bit tempted to walk out the tube station and buy one, because it does set the old saliva flowing, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, why not? Bit of what you fancy won't hurt you. Listen, And we've been talking about healthy eating and nothing else for the last 25 years. It's achieved absolutely nothing because the public are confused. What we need to do is realise that managing your weight is a mindset issue, it's an attitude issue, and it's a self-motivation issue. It's not about looking at, a hot dog on a plate versus a cucumber on a plate. It's just utterly ridiculous. It's bonkers.
I agree with the mindset part of it. Yes, a lot of people are psychological, are emotional eaters, but you have to eat the right foods to keep your blood sugar in balance. Otherwise, you'll be in a roller coaster and you'll always be hungry. So you have to get the fundamentals right.
We've been saying that for the last 20 years, though. We've been saying that, your message, we've been saying for 25 years. It has failed miserably. We're fatter than ever because of mindset and motivation, not about looking at a cucumber versus a hot dog.
Well, Steve, Olivia, I'm afraid we've got to leave it there, but thank you very much for your time and your thoughts on that one. You will have a view at home, gbviews@gbnews.com. We've also reached out to TfL, haven't we?
Yes, we have. They said, we welcome all advertising on our network that complies with our published guidance. Following a review of the advert, we advised elements would need to be removed or obscured to ensure it complied with our policy. A revised advert is now running on the network, and we're always happy to work with people to ensure adverts follow our policy. I don't have a problem with them saying we're not going to advertise junk food on the tube. I haven't got an issue with that. If that's what they want to do, fine. But it isn't advertising junk food. It's advertising a comedy tour.
Show. Yeah.
It just happens to have a picture of a hot dog in it.
Yeah. Have we gone too far?
This is where it gets ridiculous. And, I don't always agree with everything Steve Miller says. But I do
on this
think...
one, you're inclined to agree.
I think sometimes being blunt is the only way forward.
I'd be agreeing with you on that one.
You're fat, stop eating. Oh, I mean, heck, I wouldn't want to say it to anyone's face.
You wouldn't want to hear it either, would you?
Oh, I wouldn't want to hear it. But I tell you what, the one time I lost a load of weight was when a colleague at an old place, who actually works here, she said, oh, God, you've put a load of weight on. Haven't you got fat? She did say that to me.
You can't say that.
She said it to me, and I was mortified and offended at the time.
But it worked.
But she was right, and I lost a load of weight as a result. She did say to me, I said it's Polly Middlehurst. There you go. It was Polly Middlehurst.
Got a story
no. Well, but haven't you gone fat? She did. She is blunt, is Polly.
Yeah, Polly doesn't mince her words.
She doesn't mince her words, but she was right. She was right.
Maybe that's the way forward then. I don't know.
Well, then I'd say to you when I say I often come in and say, I think I've put a bit of weight on. She always goes, no, you look fabulous.
Yeah, I'd never...
You look lovely. I've eaten 2 cream eggs and about 3 big bags of crisps this week, so of course I've put weight on.
'Tis the season. Start after Easter.
The crisps.
That can be a seasonal treat as well. That's fine.
Well, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Always beautiful to me.
Thank you. Well, that's all that matters.
Well.
Sort of. Sport with Paul Coyte, who always looks fabulous. That's in just a moment.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M62 in West Yorkshire is partly blocked westbound just after junction 25 at Brighouse, causing queues. On the M53 on Merseyside, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident at junction 4 at Bebbington, and it's slowed towards and past there. On the M6 in Cheshire, there's a lane closed where someone's broken down on the northbound exit at junction 19 at Knutsford, causing queues. On the M1 in Derbyshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed northbound where a lorry caught fire between junctions 29 and 29A from the Chesterfield and Mansfield turn to Markham Vale, with long delays towards and past there. On the M6 in Staffordshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed southbound. There's a breakdown between junctions 11 and 10 towards the Walsall and Wolverhampton turn. And on the M32 near Bristol, there's a lane closed northbound. Someone's broken down between junction 1 at Hambrook and the M4, causing delays. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially
yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
All right. Paul Coyte's got all the sport for you this morning at 8:36. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
24 minutes to 9. I always used to do double time checks. So it was the radio. 8:36, 24 to 9.
You see, I can't do that.
Can you not?
My brain doesn't work that way.
Give me any time.
10:02.
Well, no, it only works when you go past the half an hour. To ruin it for me. Okay.
8:47.
8:47, 13 to 9.
That's very good.
You're very good at this.
I'm terrible at that.
8:52.
8:52, 8 minutes to 9.
Very good.
Anyway, so now all these time checks, everybody's confused. That's not the time, by the way.
It's not.
Just
It's
don't worry, that's not the
8:36.
time.
There you go. Justin Thomas, please.
Yes, just in time. Justin Thomas, former world #1 golfer who was at the ice hockey in New York just a couple of nights ago. It was the New York Rangers who beat the Philadelphia Flyers 6-5, and the camera picked him out. So he's there just enjoying it. Have a look at this. There we are. Look, the camera's picked him. They show him with a trophy. There he is.
Oh.
Hey, everybody, I got a beer. Oh. Here we go.
Oh.
He's got a chug. He's got a chug.
Is it chug cam?
There we are. And there you go. He did dribble a little bit there,
Oh.
didn't he? But there we are. That's Justin Thomas.
So he's enjoying a bit of sport.
That's a professional sportsman enjoying a little sport and having a little drink as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, you couldn't do that at football over here. Do you know why?
Why?
Can't drink beer.
Correct. It's alcohol is banned. So you couldn't sit there, and if there was a chug cam, it'd have to be like a glass of water or a soft drink.
Well, you can't drink beer in the stadium.
No, not actually face. This is the weird thing. Not face. So if you're sitting like that watching the game, you can't drink beer. You'd have to turn the other way. It's a strange rule.
Really?
If you face the other way, or if you go somewhere else, you can drink. But if you're facing the pitch at a certain time around the game, it's against the law.
You have to drink before the game.
Crazy, but
That's
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's true though. It's absolutely true.
Should we talk about Novak Djokovic, who is going through a breakup?
He is going through a breakup. Novak has split from Goran Ivanisevic, his coach of 5 years. Goran, who is a very successful tennis player himself, have now split up. And it's because things haven't been going so well for Novak recently. He didn't win the Australian Open, which of course is a disaster. There's Andy Murray there, but there's Goran.
Oh goodness, I was getting a bit
And there we are.
confused.
There's Novak there. But they were working together for quite a while, and he said, Goran and I have decided to, after working together, we decided to go our separate ways. Our on-court chemistry had its ups and downs.
Right.
So I don't know whether we read between the lines there.
So we have decided to go our separate ways. It means you're fired.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. You're fired. It's as simple as that. So whether he's going to have a new coach or whether he's just going to go on his own, but it could be a slippery slide, couldn't it? That could be.
But he's on his way out anyway, isn't he?
I don't... He's 36. He was beaten very recently, India and Wales, by number 136 in the world. So this could be the time. But you know what great champions are like. Just when you think it's all over, then they come back in.
Oh.
OK.
Steph Houghton?
Yeah, I was going to... Yes.
To tell you about Steph?
Yeah, well, you should do, though. I was going to ask you, which England captain's stepping down, but you've blown it now.
That's Kevin Keegan. No, Steph Houghton. Steph Houghton, former England captain. She has seen probably the greatest transformation in the women's game than anybody else because she's seen the whole change. 121 England caps. She was the captain of England when England got to the semi-finals of the World Cup back in 2015, and that was when the change began to happen, whereas you had only a few people watching it, and then it started taking off. So she's seen a huge change in the women's game, and a great player and also a great ambassador for women's football as well.
So it's remarkable how it has changed, actually, from something that we never really talked about.
That's right.
To now being big money stuff.
Everywhere, yeah, and it's taken so long. Yeah. That's the thing, but I think them doing well in that World Cup made the difference because people then started paying attention, thinking, oh, yeah, and then it snowballed from there. So
yeah,
I'll make
absolutely.
that continue.
Should we talk about Louis Vuitton?
Oh, this is the bit you want to talk about.
Oh, yes.
This is very interesting.
Yes.
Louis Vuitton, who will be involved in the Paris Olympics. What do you think they've put together? So if they're going to make something...
Medals.
Well, nearly.
Suitcases.
Well, you're pretty much on the money, both of you, because it's...
Outfits.
No, we're there.
Stop when you're ahead, darling. Stop when you're ahead.
Laura Muir there wins the 800 metres wearing a lovely Louis Vuitton handbag. I think it's not really that. It's the boxes. Look, can we have a little look? I think we have a little something. There we are.
Oh, well, they look
there's
very
the medals.
good.
They're the boxes that will hold the torch for the torch relay. So they have a special Louis Vuitton. Or a little Louis Vuitton box, and it's the same thing for the medals as well. So as they get given the medals, they'll have the box, are probably worth more than the medals.
Probably is,
they will be.
Then again, I know someone that'll do those for about a third of the price. They're a bit dodgy, but you know.
I once watched a documentary on those Louis Vuitton trunks, which is what they are.
That's right. It's a
they make only a few a year. Takes several weeks, and they do it all by hand.
Several weeks worth, retail for £37,000.
Exactly, yeah.
Like that,
Someone sitting there going,
So
how much you get paid to do this?
Yeah. I went to a Louis Vuitton shop, actually, in Paris the other week.
Did they let you in?
They did let us in.
Yeah?
They did let us in. We had to pretend to be interested. These prices were unbelievable.
Did you go in and say, excuse me, what's the cheapest thing that you do?
No, I did not. What's the most expensive item you've got?
Yes, I'd like to try it on.
Most of it was awful.
Was it really? All
really
too tacky?
Awful.
Yeah.
Not tacky, but just... I mean, but the price is unbelievable.
What were you looking for?
Nothing. We were just going in because it was there.
Oh, right.
Little present.
That's where my documentary was based, in the Paris one.
What documentary?
To get good customer service. I just told you, I watched a documentary on how they make the trunks.
Oh, that one?
That one.
Oh, right.
So they're not called boxes, they're called trunks. Right, okay.
Yeah, so now you know.
All right, fine.
You can't go and ask for a Louis Vuitton box.
Yeah, excuse me, can I have one of your boxes, please?
Yeah.
You mean a trunks?
They wouldn't allow you in.
Oh, yes, I'd like a trunk, please.
There you go. Get off.
Thank you.
All right, we've got the...
Don't laugh, I know you're serious. I know, I'll get my coat.
He's not coming back. The papers with Candice Holdsworth and Charlie Rowley in just a minute.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Farage, Monday to Thursday from 7 p.m.
Now, the massive debate back across the pond is NATO. Yeah. Everyone's talking NATO every day. It was your comments about them not paying enough, not paying 2%. And you said this, you said it again recently. You made a comment, well, the Russians can do whatever they want if these guys don't pay. Well, that's now being used.
Well, they can use it. I don't really care if they use it because what I'm saying is that's a form of negotiation.
Why should we guard these countries that have a lot of money? And the United States was paying for most of NATO. And when I went there, and I already had it out with them, and now they stopped paying again. But now they're paying because of those comments that you saw 2-3 weeks ago. The question was asked by the head of a major country in front of everyone else, 28 countries at the time, including us. They said, so if we don't pay our bills, are you going to protect us from Russia? I said, you mean you're delinquent? You're not paying the bills? Yes. Nope, I'm not going to pay you. We're not going to do it. We're not going to defend you. If you're not paying your bills, we're not going to defend you. It's very simple. And hundreds of billions of dollars came flowing in. Now, if I say, yes, I am, they're not going to pay their bills. Why would they do that? NATO has to treat the U.S. fairly, because if it's not for the United States, NATO literally doesn't even exist. But they took advantage of us, like most countries do.
If they start to pay their bills properly and the club is fair, are places like Poland defended? Will America be there?
I believe the United States was paying 90% of NATO, the cost of NATO. It could be 100%. It was the most unfair thing. And don't forget, it's more important to them than it is to us. We have an ocean in between some problems. It's more important for them. They were taking advantage, and they did. They took advantage of us on trade, and they took advantage on
So if they play fair, if they start to play fair, America's there?
Yes, 100%, 100%.
Thank you.
I'm hugely embarrassed, actually.
Why are you hugely embarrassed?
Because joining us in the studio is former advisor to Michael Gove, Charlie Rowley, and the writer and commentator Candice Holdsworth. And just before we came back, my mic pack fell off and I couldn't see where it had gone. And so Candice, who is 172 weeks pregnant, was on her hands and knees picking it up. It's ridiculous.
But I have like two small kids. I'm always active and doing things all the time. That's sort of like Lily on the lotus. I can't do that now.
Oh, you should do. You should do it too. Right, good to see you both. Should we start off with a bit of Chancellor of the Exchequer?
Well, these numbers confirm, I think, what we already knew, which is despite the Bank of England predicting the longest recession in 100 years, in fact, GDP grew, albeit marginally, last year. That's obviously very welcome, but one of the ways that we're going to help that growth is by supporting families get back into work with a big childcare offer. And what will be a hammer blow to those families is that just this week, Labour have said that they may refuse to guarantee that free childcare for every child over 9 months. That will be a huge disappointment to many families.
So, there you go. Despite the fact we confirm we're in a recession, that doesn't sort of matter, and childcare is a big issue come the election. Charlie?
Yes, I think it will be, and I know we talked about it in the last hour, but it reminds me so much of 2015, that general election, where the Tory party offered 30 hours free childcare a week. That was just a number of policies where it was sort of something for everybody, and that was during a time of austerity. So I think policies like this will really matter to people, and that's when the general election does eventually come. It'll focus people's minds about sort of the policies that both parties are putting forward, and where Labour may not be as committed as the Tories are when it comes to childcare or any other issues, then that will focus the minds, and it'll be a very, very clear choice for voters.
Yeah, but it's a difficult one, isn't it, Candice? Because they're not. You can use the argument Labour aren't committed to childcare, but you can also say, well, Labour are looking to balance the books.
Well, this is the thing, and I just find it so shocking that government has to get involved in this anyway, where they have to start subsidising childcare places. Have costs gotten so out of control that parents on middle-class incomes struggle to pay childcare fees and have to have government help for doing so? It's an appalling situation. We really need to look at why that's happening.
Well, this is also an appalling situation, Candice, related to children. It's on the Mail Online today. Increasing number of parents are sending their children to primary school in nappies.
Yeah, so this story, caught my eye in the Daily Mail because I have a child of reception age. And this very interesting, it was written by a very interesting woman called Amanda Jenner, and she's a toilet training expert.
Right.
Wow.
So you've got this whole industry now of basically like these kinds of consultants that help parents with toilet training, with sleep training. And she's saying that we do need to help parents who are actually struggling with time. She says this is one of the big issues. That's why so many children are turning up to reception not toilet trained, because you've got frazzled parents who aren't able to put the time into toilet training their children. But I don't know. I'm just wondering, why have we become so infantilized? Why do we need experts constantly to help us with things that we've been able to do since we started having children?
Yes.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, look, you know...
well, the Labour Party wants to teach children to brush their teeth in breakfast clubs and things.
Totally. And look, you know, I'm all for... breakfast clubs and after-school clubs and everything. I'm all for, schools having a bit more of a role in actually their communities. And I know they do a lot of community work, but they can do more to certainly help parents help their kids. But you can't expect teachers and teaching assistants and everyone else to be sort of picking up what is effectively the responsibility of parents. Now, if you can't train your kids, or if you can't find the time to train your kids to do the most basic of things in terms of life before they go to school, then I'm sorry, you need to be called out for it. Just as you don't help your kids in terms of cooking, if you can't help with homework, of course there'll be support out there for you. But when you're seeing 9 in 10, that is ridiculous. Who are these people? Who are these parents? I'm afraid it is a responsibility of those individuals to get a grip.
And sometimes it can be sort of counterintuitive why a child isn't toilet trained. It's not that the parents aren't doing it. Sometimes the parents start too early, put too much pressure on the kids, obsess about them being toilet trained, and then the kids have all this anxiety about going to the toilet instead of just being relaxed about it. And you wouldn't expect that, but I've seen it. I've actually seen it. Parents trying to get kids out of nappies by age 2. They're not ready for it, and then they actually have a resistance to it. And a lot of this is people just, listening to these podcasts by experts and thinking, oh, I can't trust my intuition anymore.
Right. Oh, it's a tricky one. I've changed a few nappies in my time, but only with children I can then give back.
Yeah, no, I've never changed a nappy.
Haven't you?
No.
Oh, your time will come.
Well, I do.
Your time will come.
I'm not wishing for it right now.
No.
Charlie, should we have a look at minimum wage? There's a call for it to start at 18 instead of 21.
Yes, and this is from the Low Pay Commission that have put out a report to say that, it absolutely said minimum wage should come down to the age of 18. That's the starting point, as opposed to 21, where it's sort of integrated. And there's been pushback from the chair of the hospitality sector, Kate Nichols, who said that'll be too costly for businesses at a time where they're already facing pressures. Actually having the opportunity to employ someone a bit younger and paying them less, so someone at 18 as opposed to someone maybe in the mid-20s, gives a younger person an opportunity to enter the workplace. It gives them an experience, because if the choice is between somebody maybe in their 20s versus someone in their late teens, then you'd always opt for perhaps someone of a higher age in those sectors. So it's about giving opportunity to young people, also but the cost of and burden of businesses. But for what it's worth, I think eventually, sooner or later, it will come down to 18. I'm sure a government or an incoming government will want to pledge that to give hope to young people at a time where there isn't much going for young people at all.
Yes, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that one.
Current minimum wage, £10.18.
I think
That's what I've just Googled.
I think it is for. I think if you're between 18 and 20, but I think if you're 21, I think it's up to £11. What was it? £11.88 or something like that an hour.
Don't know. Candice, in the Telegraph, we're being told that Elon Musk is harbouring a dangerous illusion that he wants to go to Mars.
Yeah, I love this sort of, controversies in the science world. So this is by Professor Lord Martin Rees, who co-founded a fascinating-sounding organisation called the Centre for the Study of Existential Risk. And what he's saying is that Elon Musk's plan to go to Mars and colonise Mars is probably too difficult, and we'd be better off solving our problems at home instead.
Come on.
I might be onto something there. I think we should solve a problem.
No, but what you'll do is, this is why people get it wrong, by facing the challenges on Mars are so huge. By facing those and tackling those, you then develop things that you wouldn't otherwise do that will help.
Yeah, I don't see why it should be mutually exclusive.
No.
I mean, it is interesting. It was almost like space exploration involving people anyway, I mean, we send telescopes way out into the universe, kind of stalled a little bit in the 1950s and 60s. I mean, I think people in that era thought we'd be inhabiting multiple planets by now, but it's never really happened. And I think, you know, someone like Elon Musk, yes, he can be controversial in so many ways, but the guy is deeply competent. I mean, look at all the innovation with Neuralink. I mean, it's fascinating what he's able to do when he puts his mind to it.
He is slightly crackers, I think, Elon Musk, but I think you need to be that sort of clever in a way. Never mind, we'll let him contemplate all of that. Are you preparing to stuff your face with gesture eggs this weekend, Shirley?
Well, I might stuff my face, but I'm with lamb and other things that you can have over Easter. But I will indulge. Yes, I will. Why not?
In a gesture egg?
Oh, absolutely not. No, it'll be an Easter egg all the way.
An Easter egg?
Because you're right. There is a store, a Cadbury discount store known as Retailer Fresh Stores, which are advertising Easter eggs as gesture eggs, diminishing the obviously the Christian spirit of it all, and just the occasion and the real meaning of it. But it also comes at a time where a senior doctor, has told us all not to eat an Easter egg all in one go. Now, if we're talking about
so huge,
exactly, because apparently one Easter egg takes up about 3/4 of your intake or whatever. It's a load of old baloney. Eat as much as you want. It's a great festive holiday period.
There you go. Lovely. Thank you both. All right, let's go check on the weather.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Low pressure dominates the weather for the day ahead. Heavy showers, strong winds across the country. Met Office warnings in force for the strong winds across the southwest of the UK today. 60 to 70 miles an hour around the coasts. Possible some heavy rain across Northern Ireland. Continued risk of flooding here. There's some brighter breaks in between, but for many it will be a showery day. The rain heavy with some hail and thunder in there. Gusty winds too, making it feel quite chilly. So temperatures generally in the range of 9 to 12 Celsius. Add on that brisk wind, will be a chilly afternoon for many of us. That low pressure continues to swirl its way northeastwards as we go through into the evening time. Some hefty downpours possible. Some clearer spells starting to develop into the early hours, but further showers also pushing in. Under the clearest skies, we could see temperatures dip to mid to low single figures, but for most it will be a frost-free start to Friday morning. Showers from the word go across many parts of the country. Some more persistent rain still across northern Scotland, perhaps some hill snow for a time too. And then through the day, sunny spells and showers is the name of the game. Some of the showers will be heavy with hail and thunder once more. The good news is the winds will be a little lighter compared to Thursday, but with the brisk showers around, it will still feel quite chilly. Temperatures up to around 13 or 14 Celsius. See you soon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed westbound after an accident between junctions 26 and 25 from Chainbar to Brighouse, causing long delays. On the M53 on Merseyside, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident at junction 4 at Bevington, causing delays. Now on the M6 in Cheshire, there's a lane closed where someone's broken down on the northbound exit at junction 19 at Knutsford, with queues towards there. On the M1 in Derbyshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed northbound where a lorry caught fire between junctions 29 and 29A from Jesfield and Mansfield turn to Markham Vale, causing long delays. On the M6 in Staffordshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed southbound. There's a breakdown between junctions 11 and 10 from Cannock to the Orson Wolverhampton turn. And on the M25 in Surrey, the inside lanes closed clockwise after an accident between junctions 9 and 10 from Leatherhead to the A3, causing queues. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win big. You could win an amazing £12,345 in tax-free cash that you could spend however you like. Plus, there's a further £500 of shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. We'll also give you a gadget package to use in your garden this spring. That includes a games console, a pizza oven and a portable smart speaker, so you can listen to GB News on the go. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats, and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. It's 9 o'clock on Thursday, the 28th of March. Today, lawless Britain. A manhunt underway after a man armed with a zombie knife attacked a passenger on a train in broad daylight.
Police say the incident started here with two men fighting at Shortland Station and ended with a frenzied knife attack in front of horrified passengers. I'll have the latest.
The King records a Maundy Thursday message highlighting the importance of extending the hand of friendship, especially in a time of need.
I'm live in Worcester, where Her Majesty the Queen is expected to distribute Maundy money on behalf of the King. His message, the first we've heard from him since the Princess of Wales told the nation of her cancer battle. More details shortly.
Could a summer election be on the horizon? Speculation arises as Downing Street aides fear the Prime Minister might not be able to hold off until the autumn. All right, let's crack on with that manhunt then, should we? It's underway after a man armed with a zombie knife attacked another man on a train in broad daylight in front of other passengers.
Well, this video circulating on social media appears to show a man wearing a face mask and wielding a large blade. Police stopped the train and paramedics attended the scene, but the suspect got away.
Well, we know the victim has been taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries.
Well, our GB News reporter Ray Addison has the latest for us. Good morning to you, Ray. What more do we know?
Well, commuters here telling me as they start their day that they've been deeply concerned by this latest attack, but that instances of violence like this on transport are becoming increasingly common. Now, we know that the police were contacted just before 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. It reports that two men were fighting as they entered the train here at Shortland Station, and then that social media footage being posted online showing what appears to be a frenzied knife attack, a large weapon, maybe 10 or 12 inches in length, being wielded by one man against the other. He's slumped on the ground. We can see his legs flailing around as he tries to protect himself, and that blade being brought down time and time again. And of course, very, very deeply concerned passengers in that carriage, one woman in particular on her phone reporting what is happening, perhaps to a friend, perhaps to the police, and screaming at the suspect to stop his attack. Another man leaving the carriage as he's on the phone to emergency services, urging them to call an ambulance as soon as possible. Now, we know that the train was stopped at Beckenham Junction. It's just a 2-minute journey, 2 or 3 minutes from here at Shortlands to Beckenham, and so that attack, of course, brief, but must have felt like an eternity for the victim. And then the suspect making off on foot before emergency services could arrive. But a a large response from emergency services and obviously treating that man on the scene, the victim. We believe he was airlifted to a major trauma centre where he received care, but he's obviously had life-threatening injuries. His family has been informed, but passengers here today saying that incidents like this are just becoming very, very common.
Sometimes I bring my son on this train. So yeah, I've heard of a lot as well. I've heard of lots of muggings at Hayes train station as well. So yeah, it's a big concern.
To think that this sort of attack can happen so common now in the afternoon.
A lot about school children taking phones off children and wearing masks on the train. So it does seem to be at the time that children are leaving school that it's happening.
Does it worry you to think that, because this was like broad daylight, 4 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah, no, absolutely, it's concerning for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's tragic. I feel for the families, you know, it is what it is.
I'm commuting, so I mean, it's getting worse. And I don't think it's getting any better.
Well, officers here are carrying out extensive inquiries. We know as well that police are going to intensify their presence at this station and other stations in the local area as well as this manhunt continues.
OK, Ray, Addison, for now, thank you.
Now, the Labour Party have accused the Conservatives of failing on levelling up and preying on the hopes of voters as they launch their local election campaign today.
Well, let's talk to the Shadow Secretary of State for International Development, Lisa Nandy. Really good to see you this morning. I mean, the fact that you're launching your local election campaign by Keir Starmer basically saying, yeah, Boris Johnson had the right idea, is going to stick in the craw for a lot of Labour supporters, isn't it?
Well, I think it's time that we had a more sensible debate in British politics, and we've long recognised that in 2019 Boris Johnson was speaking to the concerns of a lot of people in this country, that the contribution that we have to make in large parts of the country has been written off by people in Westminster, that we lack the tools and the power to really take charge of our own destiny, and that for too many people, geography is destiny. And the problem was that after recognising that, he did very little to actually make good on that promise. We still believe that that is absolutely fundamental to the prospects of this country, and people deserve those promises to be kept. And that's why we're announcing the biggest transfer of power out of Westminster and Whitehall in modern British history through our Take Back Control Bill today at the launch of the local elections.
Let's be honest here, though. You're playing for red wall seats here, aren't you? And you know that this policy worked in 2019.
Look, I'm not just an MP for Wigan. I live here. I bring up my family here. These are my friends, my family, my neighbours and my constituents. And I've known for a long time that people deserve better. When the mines closed in Wigan, too often what we saw was a lack of investment that meant that the jobs that replaced them were zero-hours contracts, agency jobs that don't give you the security and the stability to raise a family. And we know that we can do better. We have huge assets and skills and potential in our town, as people do right across the country. And if we're serious about growing the economy, we need to start getting investment into the right places. We need to start prioritising the assets that are in those places and not just talking about the problems that they pose. And we need to empower people to be able to drive that change themselves. This is personal for me, and it's a central mission of the next Labour government.
But if it was easy, Boris Johnson would have done it in a heartbeat. I mean, obviously, we had the pandemic to deal with, which affected all the plans for that particular government. However, it's one thing to say you want to do it, and he had the right idea to start off with, but how do you then implement all these changes? Because it's a vast amount of money you're talking about. It's about infrastructure, local and national. I mean, these are huge projects.
It is true that these are huge projects, and this is a shift for the UK. But, you know, over the last few years, I've spoken to almost every Secretary of State who's tried to do this, Conservatives and Labour, whether it's Michael Heseltine or John Prescott, they'll tell you the same story, that this has to be a whole government agenda that is driven through by a Prime Minister who doesn't lose interest in the middle. And the importance of today is that Keir Starmer is launching our local election campaign by making good on a promise that he started to make a few years ago about handing real power to people in every part of the country. That's the only way that this works, is if every part of government pulls together in order to empower local leadership to be able to make those changes, to pull in the investment. Just to give you an example, we've got a Mayor, Tracy Brabin in West Yorkshire, who has done a tremendous amount of work on launching trade missions to bring good jobs to parts of West Yorkshire like Bradford, because she knows her area better than we do in Westminster, and she understands the skills and the potential that exists there. And we want to see more parts of the country empowered to be able to do that.
Can I just ask, how do you empower people to get out and take advantage, you know, to if these jobs come in, to take advantage of them, to be better trained, better qualified and all the rest of it, and get on with working hard in their local community? If Labour can't guarantee childcare funding, should you win the next election, something which some people have already started planning around?
Well, we're not rowing back on the promise that the Conservatives made to extend childcare provision, but what we are saying is that that needs to be backed by a plan. In just a few weeks' time, that promise of an entitlement to childcare hours kicks in, but many parents are already finding that they just can't access it, that it's completely meaningless because providers are going out of business. That's why we've asked Sir David Bell, who is the ex-head of Ofsted, to do a review of childcare and early years for us to ensure that those places are actually available for parents. The system at the moment is a mess, and we're determined that whatever mess we inherit from the Conservatives, we're going to protect people's entitlement to childcare and make good on that promise.
OK, we've got to leave it there, sadly. Lisa and Andy, as always, it's really good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, with Bank Holiday weekend just around the corner, up to 18.5 million drivers are expected to take to the road on Saturday as the Easter holiday break coincides with end of term for schools. It's going to be fun.
Oh, it's going to be a nightmare. Let's talk to our West Midlands reporter. Jack Carsoon is at Spaghetti Junction for us this morning, where it's presumably, compared to Saturday, quite quiet.
Yeah, so, apologies if you can see me, the sun's just gone behind a cloud, but traffic looking OK on the road so far this morning. But of course, we know over this Easter period, 14 million people are expected to be travelling on the roads. Today alone, 2 million people just on leisure journeys, when of course you add that to the usual commuting traffic, and particularly today, because a lot of schools across the country are also breaking up today. So what you might have are those families that are trying to make the quick Easter getaway. We know particularly at airports today, you're going to have that mix of business travel and those families trying to make use of those maybe cheaper fares before the official Easter period starts. So that's going to be particularly busy on airports and the roads around those airports. Here, where we are just up from Spaghetti Junction on the Aston Expressway, which is the main kind of artery in and out of Birmingham off the M6, particularly between 2 and 7 p.m. tonight is when the RAC say the roads are expected to get a lot busier, of course, as you have those congestion usually from commuting, and also those people trying to make that getaway home and away for the Easter after work. Of course, lots of people like to travel outside of the traditional times. That creates a whole new problem, of course, for the times if everyone decides to travel at the same time. And the RAC say that between 1 and 10 people are still unsure about exactly when they're going to make their journey. So they say there could be an estimated 3.3 million more journeys to added to the list over the Easter weekend. On the trains, particularly on the West Coast main line between London, Euston and Milton Keynes, that's going to have a 4-day closure starting tomorrow for work on the line there. And of course, last year as well, we saw down, didn't we, at the port of Dover, particularly huge queues. Now, it's going to be a little bit different this year. Coach passengers particularly were struggling and being affected last year with how long it would take to process them. That's going to be done differently this year, so hopefully the queues will be a little bit less.
Jack Carson, thank you very much.
All right, Britain's newsroom heading your way at 9:30 this morning. Bev and Ben. It's a double B.
Not Bill and Ben.
Double B in blue.
How are you?
Very good. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're very good. This story that's actually not been on the rest of the press as much as you might think it was. This is the teacher who's lost his job because he wouldn't use a pupil's preferred pronouns. We've got him. He lost his tribunal yesterday, and we're going to be finding out what happened and how he feels about losing that job.
Yeah.
He says he fears for the future of the profession and children. However, the judgment, there's some detail in there which says that he deliberately went out his way to misgender the pupil in question. So there's a good debate there.
Yeah, I'd have fired him in a heartbeat.
Would you?
Yeah, absolutely fired him in a heartbeat.
We will pass that on, Stephen.
No, well, you can do. You can do. I'm from, I've got teachers in the family. My mother's a teacher. When you look at the detail, it's fact he was naming this child on the whiteboard, humiliating the child in front of the class, and it doesn't matter what the issue is. He can disagree with the gender. He can be gender critical if he wants. You don't humiliate children in front of in a classroom like that.
Well, it depends what you mean by humiliate them. I suppose if he's writing names on a board and he's still using the name that child, they're 16, 17, that young adult went by previously, he would say, well, his argument, I think, and we were going to talk to him, is that I refuse to buy into the fiction that this person has
Stephen,
changed
would you have
gender.
kicked him out if the issue was he just simply refused to use the pronouns, forgetting all the whiteboards?
I think that even in itself is very questionable. I mean, you look at the detail. He was debating and putting the girl name, the female name on the board, which is what this child was born with, and saying should she be entered into a girls' writing competition or whatever it was, a female competition.
Yeah.
Well, if that's not humiliating a child though, who is in a vulnerable position. And we know there's suicide issues and all the rest with children. I think for any teacher who has the welfare of children in their care, I think that's really questionable.
He'd argue that he was acting like that because of concern for the welfare of the children, but it's certainly a good debate. And he's going to be on the show, it's an exclusive, so we'll put those points to him.
And we've got the manhunt stabbing, obviously that's going on. Hopefully they're going to arrest somebody soon. And should we scrap working from home? And how much did Blackpool Council pay for LGBT zebra crossings?
Oh, they put them in Blackpool?
Oh, yeah, they put them in Blackpool in order to create a safe space.
Oh, I haven't seen them when I've been up there.
Probably lots of money, right? You're going to tell us.
We will tell you.
From 9:30. Thanks very much, you two.
All right, it's time now for our spring giveaway, isn't it?
It is, yes. And you're very excited about this because you want the pizza oven.
Yeah,
but you can't be in with a chance to win it. But you can. And you could win gadgets, a shopping spree, and an amazing £12,345 in cash. So make sure you don't miss out. Here's all the details that you need.
It's the final week to see how you could win big. You could win an amazing £12,345 in tax-free cash that you could spend however you like. Plus, there's a further £500 of shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. We'll also give you a gadget package to use in your garden this spring. That includes a games console, a pizza oven and a portable smart speaker, so you can listen to GB News on the go. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, King Charles is set to speak of kindness and friendship in his Maundy Thursday message later on today. That's next.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together. For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
It's a remarkable story, isn't it?
Amazing.
Extraordinary. And also, she was unflappable, apparently, the Princess Royal.
She's
just
brilliant.
refused to get out of the car and said, I'm not going anywhere. Extraordinary. Well, Jim Beaton was awarded the George Cross for protecting the Princess, and delighted to say joins us now, along with the former head of Royalty Protection, Di Davis. Jim, you won't remember, but I met you some time ago at the Imperial War Museum when Princess Anne was opening an exhibition to do with the George Cross, and you were there reunited with her. And you told me then what great admiration you had for the Princess, cool under fire, but you didn't do so badly yourself.
It was probably my job, and also I had a wee bit of police training, not very much, but a little bit, whereas Princess Anne had nothing, and yet the way she displayed it, you would have thought she'd been highly trained to deal with any type of that situation.
Even though you'd had some training, you took 3 bullets for the Princess. You effectively stood between her and a deranged gunman.
Well, I was supposed to be a protection officer, really, so I just tried to fuddle about. You must remember that back in 1974, there was no communication, and we were extremely lucky that Michael Hills, who was outside Clarence House and nearby, had got one of the fast police radios, or radios on his shoulder, so he was able to send a message out. Otherwise, we would have just been relying on the good old public to phone in and say there was something happening.
Yeah.
So times have changed drastically.
Now, King Charles is going to speak of kindness and friendship in his Maundy Thursday message later on today.
Yes, it will be broadcast during a service in Worcester Cathedral, and this year the Queen will stand in for the King, who is resting from public duties after announcing his cancer diagnosis.
And let's talk to our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. And it is a real shame the King isn't going to be there, but really important what he says in his message today, Cameron.
Yeah, it certainly is, Stephen. He recorded his message inside Buckingham Palace earlier this month. He's also recorded a Bible reading. In that message, he stresses the importance of acts of friendship, especially in a time of need. Now, the King, of course, is not going to be here in person, but Her Majesty the Queen is going to be representing him. She will be distributing coins, Maundy money, to 75 men and 75 women of a local community. Of course, 75 being the age of King Charles, containing commemorative coins. This is very much a religious service, a very important event in the royal calendar, dating all the way back to King Charles II, actually, in the 1600s, where he delivered coins to members of the local community. But it's all steeped in religion. It's the tradition and looking back to Jesus washing the feet of his disciples the day before Good Friday, where he was crucified. But if I ask my cameraman to just pan across to my my left here, or my right even, the crowd is very much starting to build here in Worcester. It appears to be quite a royalist, monarchist area. Lots of people have been here since very early this morning, hoping to catch a glimpse of Her Majesty the Queen. There is also these big yellow flags in the background of the Republic protests, which have perhaps become very noisy since King Charles ascended the throne. I spoke to royal fans and indeed Republic a little bit earlier on, and this is why they've come here today.
We love royalty, so we wanted to come and see Camilla. We're thinking of them all the time and hope they get better really quick, really fast.
Actually, I'm just looking forward to today, and we've got to wish them all the best for their treatment they're going through.
Particularly since the coronation, I mean, our numbers have rocketed, awareness is far greater, and the polling is shifting as well. So the polling is much more encouraging, and it's definitely going on a downward trajectory for the royals.
Well, hearing King Charles today will be the first time we've directly heard from the monarch since the Princess of Wales on Friday revealed to the nation that she is battling cancer. Of course, the King and the Princess of Wales are currently undergoing cancer treatments. There's not expected to be any mention of those health issues within His Majesty's message today. On Sunday, both the King and the Queen, Buckingham Palace have confirmed, will be attending the Easter Sunday service at St George's Chapel in Windsor. Now, royal sources tell me that service is going to be scaled back because doctors have advised the King not to be around too many people because of that ongoing cancer treatment. But it appears to be a message of reassurance for the King. It was such a shock on Friday when the Princess revealed her cancer diagnosis. And the King really wants to show to the nation that he is still carrying on with his royal and constitutional duties as head of the Church of England, as our head of state. And that and being in St George's Chapel in Windsor is a sign that perhaps he is starting to be on the mend and very determined to carry on and be seen in public.
And that will be really heartening for the people as well, won't it, Cameron? He'll be really missed today, but people will look forward to seeing him on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, they certainly will, Ellie. I was, in fact, quite surprised a few days ago when Buckingham Palace confirmed that the King was going to be there. I was led to believe that we wouldn't get any kind of confirmation until the day itself. Of course, it will be very exciting and a message of reassurance for the public. And today, of course, is going to be very exciting for the public here in Worcester, catching a glimpse of Her Majesty the Queen too. Yeah, of course it will. It will. Cameron, thank you very much indeed. Good to see you this morning. Just a quick one, because about the NHS earlier on. Elizabeth, I'm with you on this one. She says, I'm sick to death of hearing that older people are living longer and we're a burden on the NHS. I'm 70, worked in the mills in Yorkshire as a weaver, started my working life at 15 until I retired at 66. Good on you. You're not a burden, Elizabeth. We need to just fund it all.
That's it from us today. Britain's Newsroom up next.
Warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Low pressure dominates the weather for the day ahead. Heavy showers, strong winds across the country. Met Office warnings in force for the strong winds across the southwest of the UK today. 60 to 70 miles an hour around the coasts. Possible some heavy rain across Northern Ireland. Continued risk of flooding here. There's some brighter breaks in between, but for many it will be a showery day. The rain heavy with some hail and thunder in there. Gusty winds too, making it feel quite chilly. So temperatures generally in the range of 9 to 12 Celsius. Add on that brisk wind. Will be a chilly afternoon for many of us. That low pressure continues to swirl its way northeastwards as we go through into the evening time. Some hefty downpours possible. Some clearer spells starting to develop into the early hours, but further showers also pushing in. Under the clearest skies, we could see temperatures dip to mid to low single figures, but for most it will be a frost-free start to Friday morning. Showers from the word go across many parts of the country. Some more persistent rain still across northern Scotland, perhaps some hill snow for a time too. And then through the day, sunny spells and showers is the name of the game. Some of the showers will be heavy with hail and thunder once more. The good news is the winds will be a little lighter compared to Thursday, but with the brisk showers around, it will still feel quite chilly. Temperatures up to around 13 or 14 Celsius. See you soon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
the latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Manchester Metrolink services aren't running between Victoria and Exchange Square because of emergency engineering works. Some trains running to Market Street. Train services between Manchester Piccadilly and Sheffield are diverting via Stockport, with buses running between Chinley and New Mills Central because of a track fault. On the M1 in Derbyshire, the inside lanes closed northbound where a lorry caught fire between junctions 29 and 29A from the Chesterfield and Mansfield turn to Markham Vale, causing long delays. On the M6 in Staffordshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed southbound where someone's broken down between junctions 11 and 10 from Cannock to the Walsall and Wolverhampton turn, causing queues. On the M6 in the West Midlands, there's a lane closed northbound at junction 5 at Castle Bromwich after an accident causing queues, and hover travel sailings to and from the Isle of Wight are suspended between Ryde and Southsea because of poor weather conditions. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
I like to call this one robbing Peter to pay Paul. The Labour Party have embarked on a journey that I can only describe as politics of envy. I think it's time we scrutinise their policies more closely and establish in our mind what a Labour government might mean to the education system. Sir Keir Starmer and his party have for far too long capitalised on the abject failure of the Conservatives and haven't really had to explain themselves. But as part of their manifesto, Labour intend to charge VAT at 20% on private schools because I suspect they think that people who send their kids there will stump up the cash no matter what, and that these people have money. They will then use this money, Labour, to fund state schools. Basically, they will rob Peter to pay Paul. But what I believe they've failed to realise, I'm not sure whether they've factored this in, is that many people who send their kids to private schools do so at great sacrifice and are in fact paying twice into the education system. I spent my first year of secondary education in a state school. I'll be honest, when I started I was at the top of the class, but by the end of the year I was near the bottom. But then my dad got promoted to a post on Wall Street in the States. My parents sent me to a private boarding school in the UK run by nuns, and my family moved to America. Thank God for the opportunity I was given to go private. At boarding school I grew in confidence, and I'm here now because of it. My father's work, NatWest, and a loan my dad took out paid for my private education. We were nowhere near as rich as some of the kids there, but there are also many children, I would say at least half, whose parents were busting a gut to send them there. It is clear that the state education system is failing, but rather than robbing Peter to pay Paul, surely it would be better for the party to improve the state system without destroying the private sector.
Good morning to you. It's 9:30 on Thursday, March 28th. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with me, Ben Leo, in for Andrew Pearce, and Bev Turner.
Very good morning.
Oh, just about to say, just a warning, there's going to be some distressing images coming up.
That's right. A man is in a life-threatening condition after being stabbed on a train in London in broad daylight. Is this another sign of lawless Britain? Ray Addison has more.
Police say the incident started here with 2 men fighting at Shortland Station and ended with a frenzied knife attack in front of horrified passengers. I'll have the details from an eyewitness who was on board.